insane. Crumbling towers, streets in flames, forgotten heroes, who knows their names? Broken futures, shattered dreams.
Hello friends, this is Sam Chaney reporting for Weaponized News. Today, February 19th, 2025. Thank you for joining us on this Wednesday edition of Weaponized News. We have a lot to go over today. The good news is they removed my strike from YouTube. So for full transparency's sake, let me just show everybody if anybody had any doubts. Here they said, it looks like fluoride bans, USAID, paid Mockingbird Media, Trump Gaza takeover, fallout, and Free Roger Ver did not follow community guidelines. And they say, we think your content didn't follow our misinformation policy. But I appealed it, and turns out we reviewed your appeal, and after taking another look, we can confirm that your content does not violate community guidelines. So the good news for Weaponized News, we're back on YouTube, and the march toward monetization continues. We are partially monetized on the YouTube, but there's more we can do. We'll get to at the commercial break. So I just wanted to take back everything bad I said about YouTube. Not really, but Alphabet is practicing monopolistic antitrust business practices that are illegal, and it's wrong what they're doing there. And so Justice Department should definitely break up all monopolies because it's anti-competitive and against our free market principles here in America. It's against free enterprise, and it's, well, we've seen what they've done. A false flag against Weaponized News on the day we got monetized, essentially. So, and I doubt if a human even looks at this. It's all just, who knows? It's very nebulous, as we went over yesterday. But the good news is they removed the strike, and we're marching forward on YouTube. Thank you to everybody who complained to the manager. Okay, what do we got? Just a massive amount of news today. As always, it seems. Happy World Social Justice Day. It's World Social Justice Day. And so forget about equal justice under the law. We're following World Social Justice Day on this February 19th. We got a lot going on. As always, it seems under Trump. We got some clips from Elon Musk Trump interview last night with Hannity, a few clips. We got Hurricane the dog, most decorated dog in U.S. history, has passed away. So we'll honor the poor dog there that has died. We got Trump putting out images, the thumbnail here, that it's good to be king, as he's claiming that, well, he said old Zelensky's a dictator, which we said, I don't know, when they canceled the elections almost a year ago, said that's kind of dictatorial in the greatest democracy in Europe to be not having elections. But all of that's come out now 11 months later, and it continues that everything we reported a year ago is coming out. Funny how that works. But that to go over what's going on with DOGE, some more DOGE news. Of course, they're investigating Chuck Schumer, God forbid. I don't know how that's going to sort out, it appears. We're seeing reports of that. Record high S&P 500, but then sad news. Old Palantir stock went down a little bit. What do we got? We got video of a heroic rescue by Good Samaritans. So some good news there. We got, we missed it yesterday. I missed it. Bobby Kennedy delivering welcome remarks to Health and Human Services. And so we'll go over that a little bit. Probably be censored for that. I don't know. Will they censor you for playing videos of the Health and Human Services Secretary? Maybe. Maybe. Who knows? We're going to risk it, though. And so we've got Canada has secured 500,000 bird flu miracles. And so that's moving right on schedule. More of the measles outbreaks now spreading to New Mexico. So some public health news there to go over while we can. Yeah, so Trump claims that he has ended congestion pricing in New York City. We'll go over that. And he posted this image, our thumbnail. Just throw that up quickly. That's on the official White House account. You can see right there. And then turned around and posts this, and then turns around and calls Zelenskyy a dictator, which is not wrong, but I mean, come on, man. State news, New York, California. U.S. tested a Minuteman III today, intercontinental ballistic missile in California, as they continue to have peace talks with Russia, leaving Ukraine out in the cold. We got Zelensky's reaction. We got Putin's reaction. What is going on there? All that and more. We got Aardvark land. What's going on there? Some reporting out of there. They're still killing the hell out of people, by the way. But it's a ceasefire. It's a mostly peaceful ceasefire with dead bodies laying everywhere. But no, they're killing people in the West Bank. It is serious. Hamas is releasing hostages, allegedly, some dead. And so that's really pissing off the aardvarks, or they're using it as an excuse to be pissed off if you believed that they even cared about the hostages. And then to wrap up, this will be a long one for those interested. We did have a request out there in the audience. I think it was Denver, but I did dig up who killed John O'Neill, and it's a deep dive that a lot of people may not have gone down the rabbit hole. This is a different 9/11 rabbit hole about Kroll, the security contractor, and other things, and about John O'Neill. And so it's done different. Let me just put it that way. It's done in a more artistic form. It's an independent film. I enjoyed it. It's packed full of information. But it's a fictional film of nonfiction events, is how it's described here. I think it's well worth the watch to remind everybody about 9/11 and who killed John O'Neill. It connects a lot of dots that a lot of other documentaries and researchers have not connected, or I haven't seen anywhere else anyway. I think it's well worth the watch. It's 1 hour and 40 minutes, and so that'll play us out here. Yeah, we're back on the YouTube. Welcome back. Thank you very much, Ruckus there. I want my social justice. You're going to get some social justice. We have a video to play of that. Okay, let me blast through this day in history so we can cover all this news. It's insane today, as always. Going back to the year, this is way back to the year 356, on February 19th, Roman Emperor Constantine II closes all pagan temples. Horrific violation of religious freedom there in Rome. In 1807, U.S. Vice President Aaron Burr was arrested for treason. He was later acquitted. In 1878, Thomas Edison was granted a patent for his invention, the phonograph. In 1881, Kansas became the first state to prohibit alcoholic beverages. And then part of this whole climate change, global warming, global cooling, extreme weather events, of course, caused due to your CO2 emissions. Back in the year 1884 on this day, we saw they phrase it enigma outbreak of over 60 tornadoes in Mississippi, Alabama, North Carolina, South Carolina, Tennessee, Kentucky, and Indiana, killing hundreds. Some estimates are in the thousands of people killed in 1884 due to your CO2 emissions. Thank you very much for that, carbon breathers. In 1906, Kellogg's, the multinational food manufacturer, was founded. In 1910, Typhoid Mary was freed from isolation, and she went on to cause several more outbreaks of typhoid in New York. In 1913, one of the most infamous years in American history, 1913, the first prize was inserted into a Cracker Jacks box on this day in 1913. In 1933, Catholic newspapers were banned in Nazi Germany. In 1942, this is a horrific day of tyranny in America as well. 1942, FDR orders the detention and internment of all Japanese Americans on the West Coast. So don't think it can't happen here. It wouldn't happen here. It already happened here. They put American citizens in internment camps in 1942 because they were Japanese. Don't think it can happen again because you're whatever they don't like on that day, because it's already happened here in America. Also on this day in 1942, we saw the invasion of Iwo Jima, where the United States Fifth Fleet invaded Japan. 30,000 Marines. Maybe they thought Japanese Americans were going to be pissed off about the invasion of Japan. I don't know, but they were American citizens, and they put them in friggin' internment camps here in America for your own democracy, of course. In 1949, mass arrests of communists occurred in India. In 1963, the Soviets withdraw thousands of troops from Cuba. In 1968, Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood debuted on NET, now known as PBS. In 1985, Cherry Coke was introduced by Coca-Cola. In 1986, the U.S. Senate ratifies the UN's Anti-Genocide Convention 37 years later, and now vetoes everything against genocide at the UN. Thank you very much. And in 2014, Ukraine government, after our government and other intelligence agencies helped foment a color revolution, the Orange Revolution, in Ukraine, the Ukrainian government kills 26 to quell protests. And again, it's World Social Justice Day. Thank you very much. Here's our segue. Donald Trump, I'm a dictator. And then we'll play you a video from World Social Justice Day that I know everyone is waiting for intently.
My name's Donald Trump. My name's Donald Trump.
Work harder, move faster. Work harder, move faster.
Be paranoid, stay focused.
Don't blow it.
Put your money where your mouth is, 'cause there ain't no time for funny
This
bits.
isn't a game.
Show me the money, don't care how.
It's not personal.
Just park your Lexus next to my cash cow. Put your money where your mouth is, 'cause there ain't no time for funny bits. You think it's funny?
Donald Trump.
Shut your mouth. If it don't make money, then
You're fired. 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 Fired.
money,
Fired.
oh,
Donald Trump.
money,
Fired.
oh, money.
This is a dictatorship, and I'm the dictator. There's no voting, there's no jury. Dictator. No jury. Dictator. No jury.
You better watch your bottom line.
Someone will be fired. Don't blow it.
Put your money where your mouth is, 'cause there ain't no time for funny
This
business.
isn't a game.
Show me the money, don't care how.
It's not personal.
Just park your Lexus next to my cash cow. Put your money where your mouth is, 'cause there ain't no time for funny business. You think it's funny? Shut your mouth, or you're in the elevator and you're going down. You better watch your bottom line.
Work hard. Move faster. Dream job of a life. Harder. Move faster. Dream job of a life.
Don't blow it. She blew it.
Put your money where your mouth. Put your money. There ain't no time for funny
This isn't a game.
Show me the money, don't care how.
It's not personal.
Just park your Lexus next to my cash cow.
It's just business.
Put your money where you put your money where you ain't put your money where your mouth is. You think it's funny?
Donald Trump.
Shut your mouth. If it don't make money, then he'll kick you out.
You're fired. 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 Fired.
To remind everybody that that was from The Apprentice 2004. Donald Trump, I'm the dictator. Okay, here's the social justice. World Social Justice Day from who is this guy? International Labor, from the International Labor Organization. Gilbert F. Hugagbu. Let's take a listen to what he has to tell us on World Social Justice Day.
On World Day of Social Justice, I want to reflect on the opportunities we have to build a fairer and more equitable world. I'm confident in our ability to drive meaningful change, and we can best do so through social justice. Social justice is more than an ideal. It is the foundation of resilient and inclusive societies. Achieving it requires collective action. This is why the ILO established the Global Coalition for Social Justice, with over 330 partners, including government, workers and employers organizations, international organizations, civil society and academia. We are driving impactful initiatives through interventions that aim to address inequalities, notably by empowering youth and developing a human rights economy, advancing social protection, just transition, socially responsible artificial intelligence, and living wages, strengthen the social dimension of sustainable development, trade, and investment, promote decent work and responsible business. As we approach the Second World Summit for Social Development later in the year in November, let's prioritize social justice. Social justice is within our reach. Now is the time to make it a reality for all.
There you go. So happy Social Justice Day. Forget equal justice under the law. There you go. I found this interesting. This was posted by the Duke Report, and he brings up this. I'm not going to spend that much time on it because honestly I didn't have time, but I will be looking into it later as time permits. He says the connections between the first Stargate project, remote viewing, and the second Stargate project, this tech right here, are quite striking. This is not a coincidence. So what does it mean? Reposted by Duke, and Matthew Crawford was the poster of it, and he did give us this this map here. You could see a lot of connections there with some crazy stuff. You got well, everybody can just see right here. Stargate, the first project, the current project over here, Trump, transhumanism, Alex Jones, Musk, Scientology, strangely enough, remote viewing, MK Ultra. And so I find this stuff interesting. I don't know if you guys do, but for deeper dives, I'll post the link on our Substack as always, and everybody can go take a look at that. I just thought it was interesting to see that connection. And I don't know what I feel. I did read a book about remote viewing once. I don't know if it's real or not, or if it's just made up psyop by intelligence agencies. But I read a book about it once, and they said that they were using spies to remote view against Russia. I don't know if it's real or not. I don't know what you guys think about it, but anyway, I find it interesting, and maybe it could potentially be real. I don't know. So that post will be up on our Substack, so the link, so everybody can go do their further research if you feel like you are interested in such topics. Stargate, as we saw that come on the scene, announced by Larry Ellison last week, or 2 weeks ago now. Okay, moving on to judge orders Mississippi newspaper to delete editorial criticizing public officials. So a direct violation of the First Amendment here. First Amendment lawyers and press freedom activists blast blatantly unconstitutional order. First Amendment, and then so of course Mississippi newspaper was forced by a judge to delete an editorial criticizing city officials in Clarksdale. And so is this judge covering up corruption? I don't know. On Tuesday, without a hearing to review the allegations, Hinds County Court Judge Crystal Wise Martin ordered the newspaper to remove the column from its website. In her order, the judge noted that the case involves allegations of defamation against public figures through actual malice in reckless disregard of the truth, and interferes with their legitimate function to advocate for legislation they believe would help their municipality during this current legislative cycle. So, yeah, don't criticize the criminal government. And then here is the Clarksdale Press Register. Will we be banned for reporting this? Possibly. I don't know. They should recall that judge immediately, investigate him for corruption. I'm not going to read this whole thing, but they're questioning their local government, which is the job of the free press in America. Or why do we even have it? Just dictate propaganda like Sean Hannity and Fox News does. You know what I mean? And then act like you're the alternative media, like they do, and just keep the lies going. Maybe that's what we should do for our YouTube, and that's what Clarksdale Press Register should do as well. Here's the banned article. So the links will be again on our Substack for this. They what do they talk about here? So why did the city of Clarksdale fail to go to the public with details about this idea before it sent a resolution to the legislature seeking a 2% tax on alcohol, marijuana, tobacco? Wow. And so don't question your dictators there in local Mississippi government, especially don't be black in Mississippi. What is this, like the 1950s or what? But and so they just go on here asking questions about the government, like legitimate questions. The money, our money, can now be spent, support and promote public safety, crime prevention, and continue economic growth in the city. They even said they support it in this article. You know what I mean? Does that promotion mean giving away candy at Halloween, toy giveaways at Christmas, and hosting events where politicians can hand out goodie bags to voters in the name of safety? They probably didn't like this part right here, but it doesn't even go on that much longer. More police would lead to more patrols will lead to more arrests will lead to less crime, and less crime will make us all feel safer in our homes and neighborhoods. So they're like supporting law and order. I don't even get it, but anyway, I found it striking. A judge found it fit to order that story removed from their website. And so they should remove that judge for that. Lieutenant Governor Hoseman, I don't know what kind, I guess this is like literally mocking you, laughing in your face, but continuing with the Mississippi theme, Mississippi Lieutenant Governor Dilbert Hoseman, literally hosing you, age 77, should retire, go home and be with his family, collapsed while presiding over a session of the state Senate. Let's watch a video of that. And so, yeah, these people need to lay off their grip on power, go retire. 77, collapsing there. I'm not saying it was the miracle, but could have potentially been the miracle. I don't know. Let's watch him collapse there, Mr. Hoseman.
These are multi-year payouts. Each of these has several more.
Dilbert.
Senator Johnson for a motion to recess. So moved. All in favor say aye. No.
So, you know, when they're 77, I mean, it could be anything, right? Could be, really. But we hope Mr. Hoseman has a quick and speedy recovery and maybe retires. You know what I mean? Let somebody younger take over that position because he's obviously in bad health. Senate confirms Loeffler as small business administrator. This woman, if I remember correctly, she's all tied up in insider trading, all kind of corruption, but what the hell, aren't they all? This woman right here, former senator, I forget, one of those southern states. Maybe it tells us in this heading. Oh, sorry about that. Let's see. Oh, maybe not. Well, we lost that story. Continuing. What is going to happen? So she is the Small Business Administration head, now confirmed. What is going to happen with Kash Patel? Is he going to be confirmed as the FBI director? The Senate seems to be dragging their feet here on this issue. We're following this to see, I guess, allegedly, we're waiting for him to become FBI director to start arresting corrupt government. Maybe, possibly. Call me skeptical. I still have my doubts. President Trump's first month, so it's now been a month since Dictator Trump has been in charge of the federal government, the head executive of the executive branch here now. And quite a bit. They are blitzkrieging us, information overload, flooding the zone with actions. I saw reports. They fired a bunch of these people, the disease inspectors, or what are they called? A bunch of people from the public health they fired. They rehired them. The people from the nuke from the energy department, from the nuke department. They fired them, rehired them. So they've fired a lot of people and rehired a lot of people, actually, that they found were critical, at least somewhat going forward. Hopefully we can abolish the entire federal government at some point in time, but that's just not practical. I realize that, but we do have to applaud the efforts for downsizing. So they're championing here now in a propaganda article right from the White House, just to let you know where this came from. But they are championing the fact that he banned the transgenders, which is going to court. And they say a slew of pediatric hospitals stopped or downsized their sex change programs for minors, protecting children from chemical and surgical mutilation, executive order. We covered that. Fired a slew of Kennedy Center board members. That's like some elitist thing. Like I could care less, but I guess elitists in the government are upset about it. I don't know. That's some kind of internal government thing. Honestly, I believe the large majority of Americans could care less who's at the Kennedy Center on the board of directors, but they're championing that. That's a great thing they did. So it's some kind of thumb in the eye to those insiders in the government. They're talking about they caused Disney, a bastion of DEI, to drop 2 DEI programs through public pressure. PBS closed its DEI office. What are they championing also here? Fired the board of visitors for the Army, Air Force, Navy, Coast Guard following years of woke leftist ideologues. Let me just put it on the screen. This is coming directly, propaganda right from Trump administration, the White House. And then what else are they championing? Legal developments. Goldman Sachs ended DEI policy. U.S. Army barred so-called transgender people from enlisting and stopped using taxpayer money to provide sex change surgeries. So they're going to continue to face lawsuits over this, but they feel like that is a major accomplishment at the White House. So watch this now from the Fox News Hannity. If you ever listen, and I don't even know why I listen, I guess to hear what they're saying. And so driving in my car, I listen to Hannity on the radio, and he acts like he's the alternative media. And it's the funniest thing ever because he's a warmongering neocon, honestly. But he's trying to frame himself and Fox News as the alternative media, which is hilarious to me. But I believe, sadly, a lot of his, quote, conservative audience believe it. But here is his interview last night with Musk, a couple clips of it. This is right from the White House. They felt the need to share it, a recap of President Trump and Elon Musk sit down with Sean Hannity.
Social Security won't be touched, other than this fraud or something we're going to find. It's going to be strengthened, but won't be touched. Medicare, Medicaid, none of that stuff is going to be touched.
Nothing.
You don't have to. We have a great guy, Tom Homan, and he is doing so incredibly. You saw the numbers; they're now like 96%,
95%.
One of the biggest functions of the DOGE team is just making sure that the presidential executive orders are actually carried out. And this is, I just want to point out, this is a very important thing because the president is the elected representative of the people. So he's representing the will of the people. And if the bureaucracy is fighting the will of the people and preventing the president from implementing what the people want, then what we live in is a bureaucracy and not a democracy.
You know, we have contracts that go forever And they've been going for years. And they're supposed to end in 3 months or 5 months or 2 years or something, and they go forever. So the guy is either crooked, where he knew this was going to happen, or he's crooked because he's getting payments that he knows he shouldn't be getting. But they're finding things like that. They're finding things far worse than that. And they're finding billions, and it will be hundreds of billions of dollars worth of fraud. I say waste and abuse.
So I love saying that. Is anybody ever going to get in trouble? I commit fraud, I'm going to jail, man. You guys out in the audience, you commit fraud, you're going to jail. But if you work for the government, do you get a free pass? I guess we're waiting on Cash Patel to start arresting people. I don't know. We need to start arresting all the people that have stolen from us. Okay, more from the White House. President Trump's first month DOGE. Let's go to that. Again, propaganda from Trump's White House. They say here, terminated 89 contracts worth $881 million at the Department of Education, including $1.5 million contract to observe mailing and clerical operations at a mail center. Well, that could have been important work, Trump. Canceled 29 DEI contracts at the Department of Education, saving $101 million. The Department of Agriculture canceled $9 million across 18 contracts. Department of Education canceled 3 DEI training grants, uncovered $182 million worth of HHS contracts meant entirely for administrative expenses, including $168,000 for the greatest doctor in the world, Anthony Fauci, exhibit at the NIH Museum. In one day, $110 million was saved by canceling 78 contracts across DEI, non-performing media, and consulting categories. In the last 2 weeks, the General Services Administration repealed 23 directives of policies that promoted a workforce that represents the diversity of the American public. The Social Security Administration is saving more than $1 million by terminating its contract for Gender X Initiative marker and pulled references to gender ideology, canceled 12 consulting contracts with the GSA, Government Department of Education, saving federal government $30 million, canceled 12 underutilized leases, saving $3 million annually, canceled 36 contracts, saving $165 million from 6 agencies, one of which was DHS contract for a survey on climate support services, canceled 20 consulting contracts focused on strategic communication and executive coaching, saving $26 million, canceled 22 contracts for underutilized building leases, saving the government $44.6 million, canceled 104 DEI related contracts, saving the government more than $1 billion, canceled $45 million, DEI scholarship in Burma. That one I want back. Worked with the administration and the Department of Interior's Bureau of Reclamation to more than double federal water flowing to Southern California, saved U.S. taxpayers $784 million by canceling a contract to build a new embassy in South Sudan. Well, we do need an embassy, a new one in South Sudan. So hopefully we can bring that back. This one I would like, I don't know, is this welfare? Some skeptics in the audience, I won't name names, say that this is welfare. I don't know. I could take this stimulus. Elon Musk proposes $5,000 DOGE dividend. Elon Musk has proposed issuing $5,000 DOGE dividend checks to American taxpayers funded by savings from his Department of DOGE. This proposal aims to distribute money saved through efficiency measures back to the citizens. I don't know. Will this cause more inflation? Potentially. Will it stimulate the economy? Do you want $5,000? Is it welfare? I don't know. All these questions must be asked and answered. Inflation's picking up. I don't think it ever went away, but they're like, inflation's picking up again. Did it ever go away? Not for me. The Department of Homeland Security, headed by Kristi Noem, famous dog murderer, implements lie detectors to stop ICE raid leaks. And so, I don't know. Lie detectors are not admissible. If you're a psychopath, you can pass a lie detector test. So I don't know how much good a lie detector test is. It seems pretty tyrannical, but we shouldn't even they need to abolish the Department of Homeland Security. And then we wouldn't even have this problem of internal leaks about ICE raids coming out. Just abolish the whole thing and get rid of Kristi Noem. And then the world would be a lot happier place. At least America would. So seems pretty tyrannical there, but hey, maybe they'll all quit and disband. Let's end the Department of Homeland Security. Brooke Rollins, homecoming at USDA. We got to keep an eye on her. Rumored to be a big lobbyist for big food, for big ag. So we got to keep an eye on Brooke Rollins here now. And keep a close eye, actually. What is she up to? She's being championed, of course, by MAGA, by Republicans. And so we need to keep a close eye on her. And will she be compromised by her close ties to those industries? Hurricane was a hero, was a true American hero. The most decorated canine in U.S. history. He bravely defended the White House and spent retirement helping other working dogs through canine training. His legacy of courage and loyalty will live on. And so, rest in peace, Hurricane. Did he bite the lizard people at the White House? Remember, remember Biden's dog was constantly biting Secret Service and people at the White House. I'm alleging, speculating, is because they were lizard people and the dog could see, or they live, whatever you want to call them. They're bad people, right? And so I allege that the dog could sense it and bit them. This is a different dog, but hopefully this dog did that great service for America as well. Rest in peace, Hurricane. I think we'll just move on. Let's see. Maybe we'll play this clip. Let's play this clip. What's going on here? I reset everything, and for some reason, I'm lagging up over here. Let's see. Perils of live streaming. Inflation is back. I had nothing to do with it. Let's play this clip from Hannity interview. It's been here. I don't know what they're talking about, but when you're a billionaire and not doing your own grocery shopping.
Yeah. And inflation is back. I'm only here for 2.5 weeks.
That was January.
Inflation is back. No, think of it. Inflation's back. And they said, oh, Trump, inflation. I had nothing to do with it. These people have run the country. They spent money like nobody's ever spent. They were.
Sadly, sorry, Trump. So did you, actually. Was that eight? Maybe the problem's X. I think it is X. Is like picked a great time to start glitching during the show here. But anyway, continuing, Trump administration orders Pentagon to plan for sweeping budget cuts. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth has ordered senior leaders at the Pentagon and throughout the U.S. military to develop plans for cutting 8% of the defense budget in the next 5 years. Wow, God forbid we cut 8%. Trump was floating the idea of cutting it in half. I'd like to see that happen. Hegseth ordered the proposed cuts to be drawn up by February 24th. So in 5 days, according to a memo. The cuts include a list of 17 categories that the Trump administration wants exempted. And so don't worry, military industrial complex, they're going to keep your war profiteering coming. Don't worry about that. Among those categories exempted, operations at the southern border, one thing I do support that they should actually be doing, modernization of nuclear weapons and missile defense, and acquisition of submarines, one-way drones, and other munitions. The Pentagon budget for 2025 is about $850 billion. And so what is, and the consensus on Capitol Hill, warmongering politicians who will never go fight any of these wars themselves, is this is necessary war spending to detour China and Russia. That may very well be true, but none of them will ever go fight in any of these wars that they love promoting all around the world. You can guarantee that. So we're going to have to see all this sorts out. What's going to happen if they do actually audit the Pentagon? Will they do another attack, right? Like we saw on 9/11. Will bin Laden's cousin or whoever, the new moderate radical jihadist in Syria, who knows who they'll blame? Some boogeyman somewhere in the world will probably be pissed off about a legitimate Pentagon audit, and we may see an attack due to that. So watch out for that coming in the near future. U.S. labels Latin American criminal groups as terrorist organizations. And so are we cranking up for a war down there in Mexico, South America? Or we'll just call it all America, I guess. Gulf of America. Mexico's Sinaloa, Jalisco cartels, Venezuela's Tran de Agra, and Salvadorian gang Mara Salvatrucha are on the list. And MS-13, and they join a group of about 60 Islamic military groups. And so it begs the question, how many of these groups are backhandedly funded by U.S. and Western intelligence, USAID, NGOs, nonprofits, black budgets? I'd say probably a lot of them, at least the ones involved in major contraband trafficking to the United States and around the world. You can guarantee that. So we're going to have to see how that sorts out. Do we want to send troops into Mexico and go to war with the cartels there and in South America? That idea is being floated around quite a bit lately. So it is the old X. It was glitching out on me on Monday, actually, too. So I don't know, but we'll battle through it here. 86% of misinformation grants started under Biden. Let's watch this short clip from Natalie Winters talking about such things.
It was less than a week after Russia invaded Ukraine that they launched the Influence and Perception Management Office coming out of the Pentagon, which was responsible for weaponizing propaganda, not just internationally, but domestically. Here at home, I think we got to send DOGE right to that agency. And I'd been looking, too, at the mis- and disinformation grants coming out of all the various agencies. And I remember there were about 1,000 of them, a little over 1,000, and if you itemize them from when they were started, 98.6 of them began after President Trump was elected and sworn in. If there's not a more telling statistic, the idea that misinformation is and always has been an astroturfed campaign to come after this movement and silence the actual truth, people like you guys, what you were just talking about, that I don't know what other evidence you could.
That music was playing in the background of the video. That wasn't me, I don't think. Yeah, how about bring Smith-Mundt Act back? How about, yeah, there's a lot of things they could do. How about impeach this judge in Mississippi? How about start standing up, break up the big tech monopolies? There's a lot they could actually do if they're serious about it and quit playing these games. And it didn't start under Biden. It's been going on a very, very long time. They've been censoring people in America. Shoot, we go through this day in history all the way back to the friggin' to the beginning of this country, for crying out loud. It's just more technological. And they've been spying on everything since the damn telegraph with no warrant as well in this friggin' country. Okay, so Washington prosecutor probes threats against DOGE, names Chuck Schumer as target. And so top prosecutor in Washington launched an investigation on Wednesday, today, into threats against federal workers and named Democrat Senator Chuck Schumer as a target of the probe. So Chuck Schumer's out there. Remember, he did threaten Trump. Remember that famous video? The intelligence agencies have 6 ways to Sunday to come after you. And so, of course, he's threatening. He's threatening to ruin people's life with the government. Should impeach Chuck Schumer immediately. Corruption investigations, on and on it goes with this guy, Chuck Schumer. Yeah, so we're going to have to see what happens with an investigation into his threats against other government workers. Operation Whirlwind is what they're calling it here now. So we're going to have to track Operation Whirlwind. The prosecutor said top Democrat in the Republican-led U.S. Senate is the subject of a threats investigation. So you have to quoting him now. Well, let's read the whole thing. Schumer spoke out against Supreme Court Justices Neil Gorsuch and Kavanaugh at a 2020 abortion rights rally by saying, "You have released a whirlwind and you will pay the price." So hopefully it's more than just that, but corrupt Chuck Schumer. He's the old guy. He's like 70 something. Retire already, man. Retire. Please save us. S&P 500 closes at another record high on Wednesday as investors look past Trump tariff fears. And so for those in the stock market, looking good. And of course, it does affect the entire economy. So that's good news for the economy. But sad news for everybody that loves the AI technocracy here, and targeted drone killings sponsored by Palantir. Everybody that is on board with that felt bad today because they saw their investment in Palantir go down a little bit. Palantir plunges after CEO Karp changes share sales plan. Pentagon budget cut reports. And so God forbid if we don't shovel a bunch of money at Palantir through the Defense Department. The share price of Palantir fell by as much as 12% today. The drop followed a report by the Washington Post that the Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth has told the Pentagon brass to prepare to cut we already reported on that previously, by 8%. Palantir is best known for its contracting work, providing software and technology services for defense agencies, for war agencies. We should actually change it back to what the name was when we had a more honest government. Change it back to the Department of War, what they called it in World War One. You know what I'm saying? Okay, some good news here on this Wednesday to let you know there are good people in this world willing to risk their lives. Good Samaritan here. This is a report out of ABC 15, Arizona. Body cam footage released by Chandler officials shows a dramatic moments. First responders and multiple Good Samaritans help a woman who suffered moderate injuries out of a burning truck on U.S. Highway 60. Let's watch this video.
Here, get out of the way, get out of the way. Get out! Get out! No way. Get her out of there! Oh, get her out! Get her out, dude! Get her out! Anybody else in there? Anybody else in there? No! Get back from the truck! Get back!
Quite dramatic and heroic, and good job there by the first responders and the Good Samaritans. That was saving that woman's life, restoring a little bit of faith that we had in humanity that we had left there. Thank you very much for that reporting by ABC 15 out of Arizona. Continuing, yeah, Bobby Kennedy, we missed it. I missed it yesterday with all the news, and we had Thomas, the guest there, and we had the whole shakeup of the strike on YouTube. So anyway, my bad. We missed this yesterday, but still worth reporting today. Secretary, okay, of course we have to bash him first. Ex-heroin addict and womanizer, Secretary of Health and Human Services now, Robert F. Kennedy Jr., the man that will make disease in America great again, right? For YouTube, we have to bash him for your mainstream. No, honestly, I think he has done great work. We've reported about him suing Monsanto and so on. But he did give his welcoming remarks to HHS staff yesterday. And so that is a 21-minute video. I'm not going to play that whole video. We do have an excerpt of it. I will link to it for those interested. I may watch it after when I have some more time. I always say that. But anyway, and I did follow HHS here now on the YouTube, so I can get updates from them, because I am interested in how Mr. Kennedy is going to make America healthy again. How is all of this going to sort out? Will he be censored, banned? Should he be? Will he start doing heroin again? Will he get his voice back? Will he, will he womanize his current wife? A lot of questions out there to be answered. So we're going to have to follow his actions there at the Health and Human Services Department closely. Here's an excerpt. Here's an excerpt of what he's talking about there. Hopefully you can talk about such things. The secretary of the department's talking about it. So let's go to that now. What has changed in the last 30 years, and we see this massive increase in chronic disease of Americans, and it's probably just in your head, right? But let's hear what he had to say. A quick clip from his speech yesterday.
Last Thursday, President Trump signed an executive order to establish the Maha Commission to study what has caused the precipitous decline in American health over the past 2 generations. So we will convene representatives of all viewpoints to study the causes for the drastic rise in chronic disease. Some of the possible factors we will investigate were formerly taboo or insufficiently scrutinized. The childhood vaccine schedule, electromagnetic radiation, glyphosate, other pesticides, ultra-processed foods, artificial food additives, SSRI and other psychiatric drugs, PFAs, PFOAs, microplastics. Nothing is going to be off limits. Whatever belief or suspicion I have expressed in the past, I'm willing to subject them all to the scrutiny of unbiased science. That is going to be our template, unbiased science. That's something that will make us all proud of this agency and of our role in restoring American health. Let's commission research that will satisfy all the stakeholders once and for all. Let's use protocols that we all agree on in advance and not alter the outcomes of studies when they're halfway through and that they look inconvenient. Let's all depoliticize these issues and reestablish a common ground for action and renew the search for existential truth with no political impediments and no preconceptions. Finally, I want to ask you this.
I don't know, man. What do they say in the comments here? Huffman says he's going to say the old miracles are bad and the new miracles are good, possibly. But we have a report about that. Thank you, Barry, for reminding me to take our live commercial break. And we're back on the same train as before, even though we have won our appeal there at YouTube. They agreed that we did not spread misinformation, that we're good, fine, upstanding young citizens and bashing the hell out of Trump and Bobby Kennedy Jr., as we should, as good liberals would. And so we're following their protocol well. But seriously here, we did reach the first threshold, and I knew there was another threshold, but we might as well just continue with the same campaign because it's been such a success. Thank you, everyone in the audience, for all of your support. It is truly greatly appreciated. So we got, let me just show you for full transparency. We got our little trophy there, so that's very nice. 500 plus subscribers. We're at 526. The new goal is 1,000 subscribers. I guess I don't even know what it does for you. Maybe commercials on there. So we'll get commercials. I don't even know from what. But here you can see we've qualified here now on the YouTubes to get memberships. I'm probably not going to use that feature. We can get super chats. You can get super chat, super stickers, super thanks. And so we do have that feature. And we can also add our shopping cart there. So we're partially monetized. Now continue to grow. The next part of the campaign here, we need 1,000 subscribers. And you can see we reached our 3,000 hours watched. Thank you again to everybody who has participated in this campaign and helped us achieve the first level of monetization on YouTube. Now we're going for the second level of monetization. So we need, it's not that big of a haul to get another 1,000 hours viewed, but it is a big haul to get these more subscribers. So if you're on any of these other channels, X, Rumble, Rockfin, Odyssey, BitChute, Facebook, please go over to YouTube and subscribe on Weaponized News, and that will truly be appreciated and help us toward the next part of the monetization goal, 1,000 subscribers, and keep on letting the viewing hours be watched here as we try to get 4,000 hours watched. Again, fulfilling the first part of the goal, getting monetized here with these features. Going for the second part of the monetization process, I assume, I don't even know what it is. I haven't even looked into it, honestly, but I assume it's advertising. on your videos to help us fund this operation however we can through YouTube. And so simply go to Weaponized News YouTube channel, scroll to the bottom here, watch the documentaries about the new world order from the Russian and Chinese perspective. We did a documentary here about the Greater Eurasian Partnership, which was announced essentially yesterday, or parts of it. The new Eurasia, essentially, with a break now we're seeing between NATO and the United States there in Europe. And all of that was talked about like 9 months ago here on Weaponized News by Simon. And we did a documentary about it you can find right here. And you've already seen the new nuclear doctrine from Russia, the new nuclear doctrine from America, as we move toward a multipolar world in the new era, in the new world order. All of that is broken down here in painstaking detail in these documentaries, 12 of them. If you've already seen them, push play, mute, and walk away and help us get to those 4,000 hours watched. And thank you very much again, Barry, who's putting in the effort of 3 men, or more than that even, leveraging technology to help us reach these goals. Thank you, Barry, and everyone else who has contributed to help us reach the first threshold of monetization on YouTube. Now we're going for the second, and trying not to run afoul of the community standards on the YouTube. So we'll, I guess what you have to do is bash Kennedy and Trump, and then maybe we'll be okay. Here is a short video that HHS put out now under Bobby Kennedy Jr. Let's watch this short clip of propaganda from HHS.
Mr. Robert F. Kennedy Jr.
I'm Robert F. Kennedy Jr., and I'm President Trump's Secretary of HHS. My main mission at HHS, in which I hope that you will all join me, is to reverse the chronic disease epidemic in America. I did a welcoming speech and introduced myself to all the personnel at HHS and invited them into the endeavor of making America healthy. I was really bowled over by the enthusiasm that I got. I got to meet most of the people here, at least briefly. We all took photos together, we took selfies. One after the other, people came up to me and said, I've been waiting for this for my whole career, for 20 years. We want to unleash science. We want to do really good, unimpeded science. And that was very, very gratifying to me.
There are a lot of departments under Health and Human Services. And of course, we should protest against healthy people. Healthy people are bad. Protest against DOGE, uncovering government corruption. All that's bad, you know, and stand with Chuck Schumer, of course. Yes, we did it. Thank you, Barry. We did it. We did it. We did it. Indeed. Yeah, I guess I need to turn it on. Honestly, I just even dug into it and learned. Thank you for that, Ruckus, letting me know to turn on that feature. I will turn it on, though. Okay, back to the news here. Trump considers nationwide ban on bat miracles. And so that would counter what, but maybe they're finally getting it. I don't know. A potential shift by the Trump administration may lead to the suspension of all miracles for Americans. This proposal, supported by key health figures in the Trump administration, arises amid concerns over miracle side effects and DNA contamination allegations. The move reflects a broader skepticism toward the new miracles, highlighted by the recent nomination of Bobby Kennedy Jr. as HHS leader, known for his miracle hesitancy. Yale scientists link miracles to alarming new syndrome causing distinct biological changes to the body. Have you been injured by a miracle? We want to hear your story. So anybody out there, tell the Daily Mail. They'll probably bash you and demonize you. No, I don't know. Are we over that phase of this whole debacle yet? I don't know. But if you're injured, maybe you want to tell the Daily Mail, and they have a hell of a lot bigger reach than we do here at Weaponized News. We chronicled injuries. All of our early shows that got us banned. But now, what, 5 years later, 4.5 years later, Health at Daily Mail, tell them about your miracle injury there. It's good to see. Hopefully they do the right thing and don't attack the people. Experts from Yale University, I don't know, can we trust experts? I have a hard time. From Yale University have discovered an alarming syndrome linked to miracles. The previous unknown condition, dubbed post-miracle syndrome, appears to cause brain fog, dizziness, tinnitus, and exercise intolerance. We reported back on at the time when we saw a fact sheet released from the FDA that told us all the side effects, but who cares about that? We got banned for reporting on such things at the time when it actually mattered. Some sufferers also show distinct biological changes, including differences in immune cells and presence of bat proteins in their blood years after taking their miracle. The condition also appears to reawaken a dormant virus in the body called Epstein-Barr, Epstein didn't kill himself, Barr syndrome, which can cause flu-like symptoms, swollen lymph nodes, and nerve issues. Who warned about that and told you about it at the time when it actually mattered? We did here at Weaponized News, as did many others, but I would like to point that fact out to new listeners. The study has not yet been released, but hey, the miracles made by Moderna and Pfizer are estimated to have saved tens of millions of lives globally, including 3 million in the US. And so we had to add that disclosure as not to ever talk bad about miracles. And here are some of the poor victims of this miracle went awry. So maybe we're going to see a shift as we get to two more stories about public health. Canada secures 500,000 bird flu miracles amid potential threat. And we reported about how the U.S. secured all those to go ahead and make sure our poultry are safe. The Canadian government has announced the purchase of 500,000 doses of avian flu miracle from GSK. And so that's a nice windfall for GSK. This move is described as a proactive measure against potential health threats. And so there you go, the Canadian government keeping you safe from a threat you didn't even know that was out there. We do appreciate their efforts. Texas measles cases are up, and New Mexico now has an outbreak. And so I blame Bobby Kennedy Jr. for this, of course, as you would logically. Just his presence at HHS has caused a measles outbreak now, 58 cases as of Tuesday, and 8 people in neighboring New Mexico. Forget the fact that they're most likely here illegally, and God only knows what they actually have. Let's call it measles and Bobby Kennedy's fault. And talking about miracles, is the Pope on his way out? I don't know. Very sad news out of the Daily Mail here. Another report from them. Pope funeral is being rehearsed. Swiss Guard prepare for Pontiff's death after the 88 for the numerologist and symbologist following such things. The 88-year-old warned, I may not survive pneumonia. And so can we blame, well, I will blame Bobby Kennedy Jr. for the Pope's pneumonia here now, even though he literally has nothing to do with the Pope's health care. It doesn't matter, you see. It doesn't matter. And so the Pope may not get a miracle as they prepare for his potential death. The Swiss Guard there. Very sad to see the Pope in such poor health conditions at, again, 88 years old there. Perhaps running out of miracles. This was posted by the White House today. And there you go. Long live the king. Trump, of course, mimicking a Time magazine cover, wearing the crown. And direct quote from Trump, he says, congestion pricing is dead. Manhattan and all of New York is saved. Long live the king. President Donald J. Trump, a direct quote with this image posted by the White House official X account right there. And so on the same day, we'll get to him calling Zelenskyy a dictator. Another thing that Weaponized News called out when they canceled elections and said, hey, for the greatest democracy the world's ever known, it's kind of dictatorial that you wouldn't have an election for your president. But who are we to question democracy? Tesla showroom in Oregon faces second attack. And so it seems that, I don't know who they are, but someone in Oregon, Salem, Oregon specifically, has drove around and shot out the Tesla showroom. Apparently, they're not fans of battery-powered electric cars. They're in, we have some images here. Here is the showroom in Salem, Oregon. That was the front window shot out there, you can see. So, yeah, someone's going to get killed. The poster, Nick Shorter says, maybe. But it's peaceful shootings of the Tesla dealership, so I'm sure it's fine. And we'll have to follow that. The second such incident, protesting against, obviously, I don't know what, I guess against Musk and DOGE because they're going after government corruption. Talk about government corruption. How does this guy show his face? Andrew Cuomo, former New York mayor, now being rumored to potentially run for New York City mayor. And so this guy, another one, retire, dude. Stop stealing from people. Lay off of government grift. So it's being rumored that former, and remember he had to resign due to the sex scandal. They always roll out a sex scandal instead of facing the actual crimes of all the elderly victims that suffered due to his actions during the medical intervention period. If everyone remembers that, pumping up the numbers of fatalities. But he skated from all of that and wound up resigning under sex scandal allegations. And so now he's being floated as running for, which seems like a downgrade from governor, but it is New York City. So he's expected to announce his candidacy for New York City mayor by the end of this month. Should be in prison, but here he is trying to get back in the government again. I don't know how anybody in New York could vote for him, but hey, I'm in California, so what do I know? It's probably the wonderful machines that no one has ever had a problem with that are electing these corrupt politicians. It is, well, on a little bit of California news here. California's $24 billion homeless plan under scrutiny. And then Governor Gavin Newsom recently stated that no state has done more to address homelessness than California. However, despite investing approximately $24 billion with a B since 2019, the state has seen an increase of about 30,000 in its homeless population over that period. The discrepancy has sparked discussions regarding the effectiveness of these expenditures and the state's overall strategy on homelessness. Bizarre, I know. But helping with that is Governor Gavin Newsom. He says it's illegal for landlords and hotels to exploit the Palisades fire and the Eaton fire by jacking up prices on Angelenos. Price gouging is illegal and report them to the state, he says. But you just price gouge the taxpayers of the state of California out of $24 billion for the homeless industrial complex. What the hell? He's a good guy and doing the best he can as we see that massive increase in homelessness in California. More corruption out of California. California's $125 million wildfire relief plan, misnamed arson relief plan, it should be called, unveiled. In response to recent arson in Los Angeles County, Governor Gavin Newsom has proposed a $125 million mortgage relief program for homeowners affected by natural disasters since 2023, arson, man-made disasters. But if it's climate change, then hell yeah. But if it's a guy walking around with a blowtorch lighting grass and other land on fire, then it's a wildfire and a natural disaster, don't you know? Because God forbid we live in any kind of reality whatsoever when we can literally show the arrests of individuals doing the arson. Welcome to California, our dystopic nightmare. Los Angeles County has taken steps toward a 6-month rent moratorium and established 4 recovery centers providing comprehensive support for employment, housing, and financial assistance to residents and workers affected by the arsons. All that's well and good, but we can't trust the corrupt government to run anything, as I think has been very well established. So as I would like these people to get relief, to get help, to get housing and other assistance, this corrupt government and all of their NGOs, nonprofits, and government, just straight up government, will grift, steal, and siphon as much money off of this program as humanly possible. And I have serious doubts that the victims of arson will see much of, if anything, is the sad reality of the corruption we face here in California. Moving on to international news, geopolitical news. This is a rather jarring statement from old J.D. Vance, where he, well, let's listen to it. He's claiming now potentially the United Kingdom will be the first Islamic country with nuclear weapons. Let's watch this shocking statement by Vice President J.D. Vance.
I was talking with a friend recently, and we were talking about, one of the big dangers in the world, of course, is nuclear proliferation, though, of course, the Biden administration doesn't care about it. And I was talking about, what is the first truly Islamist country that will get a nuclear weapon? And we were like, maybe it's Iran, maybe Pakistan already kind of counts. And then we sort of finally decided maybe it's actually the UK, since Labour just took over. But
will the UK be the first Islamic country with nuclear weapons? Yeah, Riverside County Sheriff Chad, to go back to the state news quickly. Yeah, I did see this reported. I don't know, man. Honestly, with how you got gerrymandering, you got mail-in ballots, you got I lost my train of thought. You got the voting machines, you got ballot harvesting. You got, they don't count it till 30 days out. I'm stuck on the screen. There we go. And probably a bunch of other issues. You got illegal aliens potentially. You got not clean voter rolls, let's just say. All of these issues and more. And so how could we possibly believe that elections, especially in California, are not having major problems, let's just say, at the very least? And so I did see that announcement. I don't know how a county sheriff, it seems like, and then again too, you got California. Once you got to have name recognition, they're floating Kamala's going to run here. Kamala. Seems like a downgrade from vice president to go back to be a governor. But hell, as we see with Como too, these people just can't lay off the grift, can't lay off the government tit, refuse to go away. So I wouldn't be surprised if we see Kamala run. Who knows? There are going to be a lot of people, I think, this next cycle throw their hat in the ring for California governor. But yeah, we'll have to see what that Riverside County Sheriff Chad Binko does. I just don't know if he has the name recognition. The thing is here, both political parties are corrupt, Republicans and Democrats, and you gotta get the money from the California GOP to be able to afford a run for governor. And if you don't get their endorsement, you're not getting the money. The only other way you'd have to be independently wealthy and fund your own run would be the only other way that anybody can possibly compete. So you have to go through the two parties or be independently wealthy. So that's basically where it stands in California, probably most of the country at this point. And it begs the question, why do you guys, I know you're humble public servants and you just are patriots and want to serve your fellow man, but why are you spending all these millions and millions and millions of dollars to win an election for a job that pays like what, 180,000, 200,000, something like this? And so if you actually do the math, it's a very poor return on investment, a bad investment. And so why would you possibly even put yourself through such a thing and want to spend all that money unless there's something else going on, right? Okay. China warships sail within 150 nautical miles of Sydney, Australia, as the South China Sea continues to be a point of contention. Now we continue to report here on Weaponized News. We've laid off a little bit about the intensity of our reporting on geopolitics as Simon has left the broadcast. But two Australian ships are following a Chinese naval vessel task group. And so they're still contesting that area. Indeed. Keep an eye on that space. NATO holds large-scale combat drills as the U.S. stance on Europe shifts under Trump. And so NATO's flexing, running combat drills here now, being left out of the peace negotiations there in Saudi Arabia. NATO members continue their largest combat exercises of 2025 on Wednesday, testing their ability to rapidly deploy large-scale forces on a 32-nation alliance's eastern border as worries grow over its most powerful member, the United States. The drills were in Romania. Isn't that where they rigged the elections for democracy? I don't know. It's democracy. Don't question it, right? But let's just say there's been allegations that they weren't having fair elections there in Romania, amongst other European nations. So days before the third anniversary of Russia's full-scale invasion of Ukraine, of course it was unprovoked, the Steadfast Dart 2025 drills comprise of about 10,000 military personnel from 9 nations as part of NATO's new allied reaction force. They're taking place over 6 weeks in Romania, Bulgaria, and Greece. What do they always tell us? Keeping 1 billion people safe. And that's exactly what they're doing. Back here at home in California, America, U.S. launches nuclear missile to show readiness amid fears of World War III. I don't know what anybody could fear World War III about. The United States Air Force launched a hypersonic missile early this morning, to demonstrate the nation's nuclear deterrent remains safe, secure, reliable, and effective. Almost sounds like a miracle, right? So that is in the headline there. I pulled it from our nuclear deterrent. The Minuteman III Intercontinental Ballistic Missile, ICBM, exercise kicked off at 1 a.m. this morning at Vandenberg Space Force Base. I didn't even realize it's named Space Force Base in California. Just a few hours after Russia deployed its YARS ICBM for combat training. And so this could freaking go wrong. But hey, it's safe, secure, reliable, and effective. Your Minuteman III ICBM. So be assured that these drills and tests are going on. And they just go through giving you the technicals of it. Yeah, it could blow up a lot of stuff. Not good at all. Here's what it would look like potentially. Well, here's actually where it shot to in the middle of the ocean. Let's pull up that image. So see, they shot it from Vandenberg Space Force Base, California, into the ocean here. Maybe it was an island. I'm not sure. Was it an island? So it's being reported they did indeed launch the Minuteman III ICBM. Yeah, so fun times there indeed, along with the YARS Russian nuclear drills. All this going on in the background of the Trump administration blocks migrant applications from Ukraine and Latin America. The Trump administration has suspended immigration applications for migrants from Ukraine and Latin America who entered under the Biden-era program, citing fraud and national security concerns. This policy change also includes an order for legal service providers to stop their work with unaccompanied migrant children, potentially leaving thousands without legal representation. Let's hear from Zelenskyy, not included in the peace talks, where, and this is where I got this other headline from, referring to what reported yesterday, where Trump said, we have a situation where there haven't been elections in Ukraine. There's martial law, where the leader in Ukraine is down to 4% approval rating. As we played that clip yesterday, for those that can remember. Let's play, this is Zelensky's response to his, to Trump's claim that he has a 4% approval rating there. He says, we'll play the clip too, but he is speaking in his native language with subtitles. So I don't even, it's like 2 minutes. And let's not, maybe we'll just catch a glimpse of Zelenskyy. I think he did change his shirt, but it's same military style. He says the 4% poll is Russian disinformation, don't you know? And that Trump lives in a disinformation space. I have a 57% approval rating. They can't replace me, he says. Well, let's hear from Zelenskyy. Can he be replaced? Does he have a 57% approval rating? And aren't we all living in a disinformation space?
Передусім, я, в принципі, ніколи не коментую рейтинги, тому що я вважаю, коментувати рейтинги щодо себе або інших лідерів, напевно, це говорить, що якісь йде політичні змагання, йдуть вибори. У нас такого немає. Сьогодні зранку вийшов КМІС. В принципі, я знаю, я орієнтуюсь, але я не коментую це офіційно, але раз прийшов такий час, значить ми будемо, ініціативу візьмемо в свої руки, скажу так. Передусім, сьогодні вийшла довіра до мене 57% по КМІСу, я чув 57 плюс відсотків різних соцопитувань. Так що, якщо хтось хоче мене поміняти прямо зараз, то прямо зараз ніяк не вийде. Я би так сказав. А друга історія, раз вже говоримо про 4%, ми бачили цю дезінформацію, ми розуміємо, що вона йде від Росії.
There you go. Anything I don't like, Russian disinformation, as we know. And so who knows what the real poll number is, the likes. I don't know who likes being in a war for a couple of years. Probably not the people that are losing friends, family, and relatives in such a war. But maybe they love it. What do I know? It's democracy. They're in Ukraine, even though they haven't had an election in about a year. There are concerns that Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelenskyy could be ousted from office. Newsweek tells us, and they made a funny meme about it here, could be voted out of office if the country holds an election. It is concerning if we do lose our key man there in Ukraine. And so here is the excerpt from Newsweek. Could be ousted from office. President Trump said that Kiev should hold elections, which has raised doubts in Ukraine. The situation is compared to the 1990s in Russia, when the return of veterans from the Soviet Afghanistan war fueled tensions. Ukraine, which has been slowly losing ground to Russia's larger army, was already facing a difficult negotiating position. The Trump administration has torn up Washington's script on the war in Ukraine and its relationship with Europe. We got more on it, but we love the corruption. We're protesting. We're pro-corruption. USAID spent $60 million on color revolution in Cyprus, allegedly. Let's watch this short clip.
Hello, friends. In my country, Cyprus, 2004, through USAID, USA spent $60 million to influence the referendum that we had for reunification of the island. And through giving to people money for reunification activities and all this stuff. So I consider this to be foreign interference. So usually here in the parliament, we only have one enemy, Russia. So we need to pay attention to other countries as well. And we need to be careful not to just cancel elections when we don't like the result. For example, in Moldova, because we like the result, it was no investigation. And so these comments, I love you all. Hello, friends.
So, of course, it's tyrannical to have an election there in Ukraine. And we see the headline out of Newsweek. And that would be horrific if we lost our man, Zelenskyy there, the former comedian. Let's hear from old Lavrov, foreign minister from Russia. Lavrov says the collective West can't give up their egotistical habits they used to rule for the past 500 years. Let's watch this.
We have no doubt who the future belongs to in international affairs. There's a chasm on the one side of which the world majority, and on the other side there's the collective West, which, as you can observe, on a daily basis, fails to bring its ranks together and fails to give up the egotistical habits that it used for the last 5 centuries, when it
multipolar world, as we continue to report here. We got Zelenskyy, we got Putin now. Let's play Putin commenting on Russia-U.S. talks. He says very friendly, completely different. And so, yeah, Trump is Putin. They're basically, Trump works for Putin, right?
Да, и, извините, и в целом, как мне докладывали, она была очень доброжелательной. Как мне сказали наши участники, это совсем с американской стороны были совсем другие люди, которые были открыты для переговорного процесса, без всякой предвзятости, без всяких осуждений того, что было сделано в прошлом. Во всяком случае, в двухсторонних контактах этого ничего не было, но настроенные на совместную работу, открытые для совместной работы.
So they're literally protesting for war, for corruption. I guess that's what you got to do to get by. We got more. What else does Putin say in that interview? He says, Putin says it's impossible for Kiev to independently bomb U.S.-owned Caspian Sea oil pipeline network. It's impossible without satellite intelligence data, which Ukraine receives exclusively from the West. Ukraine is using American bombs to attack American-owned pipelines, harming the global supply chain to prevent peace, allegedly. And of course, Russia attacked Chernobyl and cracked that protective dome over the radiation because that's what Putin does, right? Here's another clip of Putin. President Putin said Russia has never refused to negotiate, while Ukraine has outright banned talks entirely. Well,
Других участников, то, во-первых, Россия никогда не отказывалась от контактов с европейцами. Россия никогда не отказывалась от переговорного процесса с Украиной. Никогда. Это наши, так скажем, партнеры по этим переговорам отказались, прекратили контакты с Россией, европейцы, а украинская сторона запретила сама себе вести переговоры, вышла из переговорного процесса в Стамбуле, прямо публично об этом объявив. Ну что же, мы же никому ничего не навязываем, мы готовы, уже 100 раз об этом сказал, хотят, пожалуйста, пусть ведут эти переговоры, и мы будем готовы вернуться за стол.
Yeah, so kind of hard to have peace talks if you ban yourself from having peace talks, as we've seen there in the Aardvark War. If you kill all the negotiators, then it's kind of hard to negotiate. Let's see, Zelenskyy. I don't think we need to see any more of him. Barry says that they will either get rid of Zelenskyy or he's just going to go away. But Elon Musk on DOGE audit, a call for transparency in Ukraine aid. Elon Musk has publicly acknowledged a suggestion for DOGE to audit the financial aid sent to Ukraine. And so we should protest against that diligently, of course. There shall be no audit of any war funding whatsoever. Trump-Zelenskyy feud intensifies. Dictator label draws fire. President Trump has escalated his feud with Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelenskyy by calling him a dictator and blaming Ukraine for starting the war with Russia. Yeah, I think we've all seen the clips, but here is the post from Trump on his Truth Social. He says, think of it, a modestly successful comedian, Vladimir Zelenskyy, talked the United States of America into spending $350 billion to go into a war that couldn't be won, that never had to start, but a war that he, without the United States and, quote, Trump, in all caps, he's yelling Trump, right, will never be able to settle. The United States has spent $200 billion more than Europe, and Europe's money is guaranteed, while the United States will get nothing back. Why didn't Sleepy Joe demand equalization in that this war is far more important to Europe than it is to us? We have a big, beautiful ocean as separation. On top of this, Zelenskyy admits that half of the money we sent to him is missing, quote, missing, yelling it again. He refuses to have elections, is very low in Ukrainian polls, and the only thing he was good at was playing Biden like a fiddle. A dictator without elections, Zelenskyy better move fast, or he is not going to have a country left. In the meantime, we are successfully negotiating an end to the war with Russia, something all admit only, again, yelling, quote, Trump, and the Trump administration can do. Biden never tried. Europe has failed to bring peace, and Zelenskyy probably wants to keep the gravy train going. I love Ukraine, but Zelenskyy has done a terrible job. His country is shattered, and millions have unnecessarily died. And so it continues. See right there, official from Trump. Yeah, let's end that war. Zelenskyy and Starmer, UK head, unity and support for Ukraine. President Zelenskyy had a conversation with UK Prime Minister Starmer discussing the UK's role in Europe's defense. and security. Zelenskyy thanked the UK for its support and emphasizing the importance of UK backing in Ukraine's war efforts against Russian aggression. The discussion comes amidst differing international views, highlighted by recent comments made by President Trump calling Zelenskyy a dictator. Let's hope they end that war here now. And we probably, who knows what Zelensky's going to do. Are we going to audit those funds? Will anyone ever be held accountable for any of it? We still haven't seen. I guess there's an investigation into Chuck Schumer for threatening Supreme Court justice. Very thin here, right? What they're reporting to us. We need a lot more action on punishing corrupt government people, man. A lot more action. So a lot has been exposed. Where's the punishment? They get to all retire on fat government pensions and benefit packages? Is that your payment for your patriotic civic duty of corruption, grift, and just disgusting criminal behavior? It appears we're going to have to continue to press for accountability for our elected representatives and those others working for the government. Okay, last section of the show here now. Aardvarks, there's zero difference between Trump-Biden administrations on aardvark activity. Let's watch little Marco. What do you have to say about it?
If there were more Israels in the Middle East, more countries like that, the world would be a safer and a better place. And this is what we hope for the region and for our planet. A nation that's always sought peace, but will not allow itself to be intimidated or destroyed by its enemies. And on that front, you can always count on us, as long as I'm in this position and President Trump is in the White House. So thank you.
Thank you.
If there were more Israels...
Touching display of unity there. I think we played that clip yesterday, but it's heartwarming. So what Americans think of Trump's support for aardvarks? What do they say here? This is an ABC News report. Sympathizers for Gazans have increased since the war began. It's going on 16 months. Trump's idea for a U.S. takeover has been praised by Bibi and condemned by, quote, experts and human rights as a human rights violation. Well, it's ethnic cleansing to forcibly move those people off their land. But hey, Trump is king, as he posted today. It's good to be king, right? And he said he's king of the aardvarks in his first administration as well. So. Let's see. Should we play this video? No, it's too long. What else do we got there? Aardvarks demolish West Bank apartment buildings as military campaign displaces tens of thousands. But it's a ceasefire, don't you know? But only in that one strip. So they moved the war to the West Bank. Bulldozers. Demolishing, of course, terrorist homes. And so we wouldn't have it any other way there during a ceasefire that isn't actually a ceasefire. But hey, Palestinian families flee West Bank homes in droves as aardvarks confront militants. See here in this image, as they say, a picture speaks 1,000 words. There you go. Very militant looking. God only knows what they have in their bags. probably explosives. And there's their killdozers that they're using to flatten the whole place. And so indeed, very intimidating there. A woman with her child and some other women. I'm sure Hamas. So indeed, they are continuing the genocide there. Make no mistake about that. As the Greater Aardvark Land project continues. U.S. halts funding for Palestinian security aid, foreign aid frozen. The Trump administration has suspended all funding to the Palestinian Authority's security forces, aligning with a broader freeze on foreign aid, except for to aardvarks in Egypt. But last time we checked, this decision affects the Palestinian Authority's ability to maintain security in the West Bank. Well, they don't need any security. They're all terrorists. Amidst their ongoing struggle to govern effectively, the funding halt has sparked varied reactions, with some viewing it as a necessary measure against terrorism, you see, while others see it as a punitive action. Yeah. And we saw UNRWA be taken out of there as well, as the ethnic cleansing program and genocide continue there. Indeed. And that's all we got for today. Again, the documentary at the end, for those interested in sticking around, I think well worth it. Who Killed John O'Neill? A deep dive, connecting a lot of dots. Not much talked about 9/11, and a very well done, different style format. What they call it, a fictional film about non-fictional events. And so I think if you haven't seen it, you may enjoy it. I did, and we'll enjoy it again this time around. Let me go to the channels to see our comments, and then we'll move on to Who Killed John O'Neill. Over on the Odyssey, thank you everyone for tuning in on Odyssey. Bob, Barry, Resistance. Let's see. What do they say? I can't believe you would say such a thing about a judge. Yeah, they may ban me for questioning the judge about his order to remove that article, questioning, which wasn't even that harsh, honestly, questioning local government there in Mississippi. I know, may get a judge injunction against weaponized news. Thank you guys for tuning in on the Odyssey. The old Rumble. Barry, Ruckus, Karen, Carrie got a new emblem there. I don't know what that means. Local support. Thank you. Yes, indeed, Carrie. Thank you very much for that. Nexus there. Let's see. What do we got? I am personally happy you are here. Well, thank you guys for being so kind to each other. And there's not a bunch of trolling, name calling. We do have a very kind audience. So thank you for being cordial and kind on the interwebs, as a lot of people like to just go around and throw insults and be a-holes. And so that's not our audience in our chat, and it is appreciated on my end for sure. Let's see here if I can pull out anything particularly. Karen says, so the CIA is going to war with itself since we fund and operate the so-called cartels. Hey, got to get rid of the bad guys some way, Karen. Like the snake biting its own tail here. We shall see how this sorts out. The Pope is ill because he has multiple issues in his lungs. Carrie said she read the medical report. Yeah, they said as much in the reports. Part of his lung was removed when he was young in Argentina. Well, I did not know that, Carrie. What the hell? Let's blame Bobby Kennedy anyway. Even though he has nothing to do with Pope's healthcare. We'll blame him. I'm sure the your Mockingbird media will blame him some sort of way. Let's see here. They say don't question the, I don't even want to say it, the happy dancing man known as the duly elected president of Ukraine. Oh man. Thank you guys, Gunther, all for tuning into the Rumble channel. It is appreciated, and it looks like you guys are having a good chat there and keeping it cordial and nice and entertaining. So much appreciated. Thank you very much. For everybody tuning in on the Rumble, the Rockfin, next, Barry, John, Sean. See, what does Sean say? What's up, guys? Yeah, Denver's there. Shout out to Denver. Yeah, you shouldn't be eating dinner, Denver. You should be watching Weaponized News. Fauci meme. Let me putting Fauci memes up. I'm so upset. What was that? $168,000 now withhold from the Fauci monument exposition, basically shrine there for worship. They're pulling that funding. That's probably the most upsetting of all the funding that we've seen so far being cut back by the Trump administration. We need an exhibit for Fauci, of course. What is smart dust? Leaflet? Hemp car says, yeah, potentially. Potentially that's part of this whole Internet of Things, AI control grid going into place right now. China non-surgery BMI, posting some good links there from hemp car. Tougher than graphene. Yeah, part of the whole control grid. Let's see here. Gene, we need to get rid of this leadership paradigm. It's not working. They're humble civil servants, Gene, doing the work of the public. Lavaroff's right. These egotistical habits will need to be exercised, maybe by a new pope. Could do an exorcism on those possessed here in America and Western governments. Yeah, what do they say? The chickens are coming home to roost. The snake biting its own tail. Yeah, you know what I mean? It's all coming back here now, home for sure. The Rothschilds are the financial backing during the colonial phase that started the 1800s. Yeah, all to bring about the confrontations that we're seeing to fulfill the prophecy there, building the third temple as we continue to cover for the time of their choosing to kick off a war that they would profit off of from both sides, as we continue to see. Thank you to everybody tuning in on the Rock Fan. What else do we got? BitChute. Again, I do see your comments come through the email. It would be a lot nicer if we could address them here in the real time, but BitChute seems to be picking up a little bit of steam. Thank you for tuning in on the BitChute. And then the YouTube, we're back on YouTube. Thank you, YouTube, for actually reviewing our post and deeming that, oh, well, guess what? It wasn't. It actually didn't violate our community guidelines Well, thank you very much. You took us offline for yesterday for live streaming on YouTube. But hey, we're trying not to run afoul. We're pro-corruption, anti-Bobby Kennedy Jr., so that should keep us in good graces of YouTube here now. And we're pro-war, too, so there you go. And pro-elections that should never be questioned, because democracy, scream democracy, and then everything's fine, right? Right. And thank you to everybody for tuning in on the X. That's all we got for today, but a funny, of course, the Duke report again. He posted this reply to lead us into our documentary about 9/11, Who Killed John O'Neill. Let's take this as a good intro. I did not know this. The Duke report, Peter Duke replying to Arthur Stone here, where he says the 9/11 in Roman numerals 1XX1, or I guess, IXXI, on the fasci on the Senate seal with the red Purigina, sure I pronounced that wrong, cap on the top. You can see that symbolism here, 9/11. See the fasci's there. This is the U.S. Senate seal. There's something going on here too. They talk about with this cap. I forget exactly right now, but for those into symbolism, there's a little rabbit hole to go down if you didn't already know. Liberty, and what do they mean by liberty with this little cap? It's something to do with the DOGE. If I remember off the top of my head, that's what the DOGE wears, is this little type of cap. It all ties together, trust me, but we're not doing a deep dive on the symbolism of it all today. But it is extremely interesting. The 9/11 IXXI all ties in here with the fasci's there on the symbol of the U.S. Senate. So as always, everybody do your own research. Peace, love, and liberty. Speak out and take action. Have a great rest of your Wednesday evening. We'll be back here tomorrow for more weaponized news. Here is Who Killed John O'Neill to play us out. I think very well worth watching for a lot of dot connecting that you may not have heard of before. And very well done film too, different than your regular documentary style. I like the artistic value of it. Here is Who Killed John O'Neill to play us out.
On July 3, 1979, the CIA gave birth to Islamic fundamentalism when President Carter signed a directive for United States intelligence to provide radical Islamic thinking and arms to Afghan fighters before the Soviet Union invaded. This is documented in a 1998 interview with Zbigniew Brzezinski, Carter's national security advisor.
Who killed John O'Neill? Who killed John O'Neill? Who killed John O'Neill? I haven't slept in a month. I don't eat. I don't shower. I don't shave in a month. I don't see anybody. I don't talk. I can't remember the last time I spoke to anyone or even left my. I don't do anything but think. I know. I know they did it. I want to prove it. I have to prove it. What? I have to prove it. I don't know if I should. I must. I have to. Should I? Council on Foreign Relations, Trilateral Commission, Bilderberg Group, the CIA, Kissinger, Brzezinski, everybody. Everybody's in. Why don't more people figure out the puzzle? The Council on Foreign Relations has controlled the world for 50 years. You can go on their website and read about it. Am I the only person who feels the need to know more? The need to know more? I'm afraid this obsession will be all I'm more afraid. I am more afraid. Don't become of being like everyone else. I am more afraid of being after 9/11. I was like everyone else. Flag-waving patriot. I thought Al-Qaeda did it too. I thought we should bomb the Arabs straight back to the fucking Stone Age, just like everybody else. Bomb them straight to hell. Then I read about John O'Neill. Maverick counterterrorism expert in the FBI. O'Neill tracked Osama bin Laden since 1995. He knew more about Osama than anyone in the world. Tracked him past the embassy bombings in 98, Cole bombing in 2000. He knew more about Osama and Al-Qaeda than anyone in the world. Isn't that interesting? And O'Neill, he got into some trouble. His investigations into terrorism were blocked from up on high. Blocked by whom? In the summer of 2001, he resigned as deputy director of the FBI. At the same time, he was publicly opposed to the anti-terrorism policies of President George W. Bush. On September 10th, 2001, he started his new job with a company called Kroll Associates as head of security at the World Trade Center. A day later, he was dead, a victim of the September 11th terrorist attacks. The World Trade Center. Come on! Come on! The FBI's top counterterrorism expert, who after chasing bin Laden for 6 years just happened to take a job in the private sector. He's murdered in an internationally televised terrorist attack, blamed on his arch nemesis. Killed by his arch nemesis. How ironic. Coincidence? Fate? Or conspiracy? Conspiracy. Why did O'Neill start working at the World Trade Center? Why were his investigations into Al-Qaeda stopped? Who arranged for him to get his new ill-fated job? I know the answers to these questions now. And none of them have anything to do with Osama bin Laden. The more you look at the whole and not just the pieces, you don't know anything. The more you understand what really happened. John O'Neill is the key. Look into John O'Neill. Kroll Associates, Brian Jenkins, Jerome Howard. Look for John O'Neill. He's the key. Michael Cherkasky, you ever looked into the LAPD? Why don't you go back to the end? Robert Mueller, John O'Neill's U.S. Attorney's Office, see what cases they found. Bureau of Investigation. Go back and look at Robert Mueller. Go back and look at CIA. Bratton, John Miller, ABC Trade Center building number 7. Guess where they found out that Osama wanted to World Trade Center building number 7. You want to know where that came from? 126. John Miller. It was on federal bunker office. Guess who? Of all the federal agents, John O'Neill, great friends. Set up. Jerome Howard, Brian Jenkins, Michael Howard, William Bratton, Jerome Howard. Everybody having the guy who got John O'Neill his job at the World Trade Center. You'll know everything. Killed John O'Neill, and why?
That's a very good question. So who did kill John O'Neill?
To understand what happened to John O'Neill, you have to know what happened on 9/11.
I'm prepared to listen.
Are you sure?
I am sure
The CIA created Islamic fundamentalism in 1979. It was a way to draw the Soviet Union into a war with Afghanistan. It gave the Soviets their Vietnam War. It destroyed their economy and dispelled support of communism.
it was a smart thing to do, wasn't it?
Well, not without a price. See, during the war, the US, UK, and Pakistan all supported groups of Arab fighters known as the Mujahideen. Two of the freedom fighters were Ramzi Youssef and Osama bin Laden. Books printed by the University of Nebraska and paid for by the US Department of Education taught the Mujahideen radical theories of Islam and treated them to math problems and literature exercises riddled with allusions to guns, bombs, tanks, just overall general killing. You know, they trained them to be violent, and then they wonder why they become terrorists.
It would seem that creating a radical branch of Islam pales in comparison to ending the Cold War.
It would seem that way, yes. But after the Soviets withdrew, the Mujahideen were left without political support in a war-torn, impoverished, and socially unstable nation-state. So they started a second resistance movement, this time aimed toward the United States. And the primary group formed at this time, in the late 80s, was Al-Qaeda. Al-Qaeda was an intelligence operation from its start, straight up to now.
That's a very dangerous thing to say.
Even though it's true. See, from its inception, Al-Qaeda has been trained, funded, armed, and supported by the Pakistani intelligence agency, the ISI. The ISI, by its own disclosure, is an arm of the American CIA.
It's a very ominous association in light of what happened on 9/11.
It's not the first time it came back to bite us in the ass. Iran-Contra, the Sandinistas in Nicaragua. I mean, there are plenty of others that haven't been as widely reported as that one.
Iran-Contra is not a far cry from the CIA's involvement with Al-Qaeda.
You're right. Iran-Contra channeled money to states already considered terrorist nations like Iran, Iraq, Libya, Lebanon. And as the other half of the handshake, trillions of dollars in illegal narcotics have made their way into this country from the Middle East, the Far East, and Latin America. It shows a pattern of fraud and complicity by the US government to promote instability abroad to further their domestic agenda. And it goes a long way to explain its governance of the ISI and Al-Qaeda.
It is frightening how tightly ISI and Al-Qaeda fit together, isn't it?
It's more frightening how often the major media typically ignore it.
The media seem too busy trying to scare us all into submission.
Yeah. By aiding the government and covering up the truth and thereby giving credence to the bogus official story.
Where is ISI in the official story?
The official story of 9/11 implicates a man named Omar Sheikh Saeed as the paymaster for lead hijacker Mohammed Atta, and a man named Khalid Shaikh Mohammed as the operational mastermind behind the attacks. Both men are well-known ISI agents.
How do I know the name Saeed?
Well, probably because he's one of the most infamous terrorists known to man. You may know him by another name, too, because he has about a half dozen aliases. But his big claim to fame is his conviction for the kidnapping and murder of Wall Street Journal reporter Daniel Pearl in February of 2002.
Daniel Pearl was killed by an ISI agent?
By the very man the government claims assisted in the 9/11 attacks. Pearl was on his way to meet Saeed when he disappeared. Saeed, using one of his aliases, knew that Pearl was investigating ISI ties to Al-Qaeda and 9/11.
I thought Pearl was killed because he was Jewish.
But it's far more likely he was killed by a high-ranking ISI agent to make sure he didn't print in a major US newspaper ISI's connections to Al-Qaeda.
Because that in turn would implicate the CIA.
Well, think about it. If Al-Qaeda is funded by the ISI, and the ISI is funded by the CIA, 2 plus 2 is 4. What I am saying is, even though it's virtually impossible to believe the official story of 9/11, on the off chance it is true, the CIA, and therefore this government, is guilty of negligence for continuing to function as a liaison between Pakistan and Al-Qaeda.
So no matter what happened, if it was them, if it was us, if it was anybody, the CIA is guilty anyway? It sounds like you just want the CIA to be guilty.
He's on to us. He's CIA. Get off the phone. Okay? You are putting this whole thing in jeopardy, man. Okay? You were talking on an open line to someone you don't know, and you were telling him everything. Okay? So just put it in your head. Keep it in your head. Right up here. Just talk to me. Don't talk to him. Talk to me. Sound good?
What are you doing here?
What I am here to keep you from making a huge mistake, okay? In a post-9/11 world, you cannot trust anybody, especially knowing what you and I know. I understand. Okay, good. I understand that. Hey, wait, no. Okay, no. Okay, you understand. Let's go pack a bag, get your stuff, and let's get out of here. We can still get out of here if we do it. No. What? I'm not going anywhere. Okay. CIA hit squads. Okay, CIA hit squads they're coming up the stairs. Oh, there are plenty of people. Whole hits, AK-47s and black vests, man. You know they're coming. Black helicopters outside. Oh, they're coming. They're gonna take us to an underground bunker somewhere and tie power batteries to our nuts. There is no one coming up here. Oh God! I told you. I told you were gonna get us killed, and now you did it. Okay? Shut up. Oh, look at the birds. Oh, there's a conch shell. Oh, so nice. I can put it up to my ear. I can hear the ocean. Open up. You're under arrest. Under arrest for what? Yeah, be firm with the CIA. That's real good. For wasting your life with these conspiracy theories instead of contributing something useful to society. Who
Who the hell are you? I'm the guy that's gonna knock some sense into YouTube. You think this is funny? You think this is fun? Oh, I swear to God, I'm gonna kill you, anybody who looks like you. And you. Ooh, I'm the CIA. Nobody likes this. I'm sorry. This guy so much. I wish that he were dead. Do you see? Do you see? This is what you do. See? This is what you do. Are you proud of yourself? Are you proud of yourself? Well, what's the matter? Now you can't take a joke? I was on the phone. Okay? First, he bothered me, now you're interrupting. It's a good thing I did, too. Keep you from running your mouth over the phone about things you can't prove and have no business even speculating about. What are you talking about? I'm talking about what you've been doing this whole time. He is a traitor. He is not a traitor. Be gone with thee! Hang up that phone. I hate him, but he's right. I'm doing you a favor. This, all of this, it's a waste of time. We've put everything into this wall, okay? You've warped your minds into believing you have the truth. We've cast significant doubt on the official version of 9/11. No amount of skepticism. So then what do you suggest we do? Don't ask advice of this scoundrel here. He's in with them. Them? Answer my question. You know exactly what we should do. Give up. Get washed up. Shower. Shave. Let's go get laid. Let's do what everyone else has done in this country. Let's move on with our lives. You are a stupid, ridiculous little man. Move on, knowing what we know? As usual, you've missed my point, psycho. We only know 3 things about 9/11. 3 planes crashed, 3 buildings collapsed, and damage was done to the Pentagon. Everything else is just wild conjecture, and therefore doesn't matter. That is exactly why further investigation is required. Required by us? Why? Because it is our duty. Your duty, maybe. Not mine. Unless we're all in this together, we will fail. Convince me then. Why should I care what happened on 9/11? Why is it my duty to know what really happened? September 11th was the most absurd day of all time.
I've often thought that.
The masses were inundated with hordes of information, all of it pointing to this shadowy terrorist network being its maniacal supervillain Osama bin Laden. Within hours, it seemed as if the government had solved the crime without even gathering any evidence.
It did seem a bit forced, I'll grant you.
Oh, preach on, brother phone man! Yeah! There's so many questions.
So few answers.
What caused those buildings to collapse?
The official version says the fires from the burning jet fuel caused the collapses of the Twin Towers.
But can anybody... Not you. But can anybody prove that? Engineers and scientists have proven it with physics. And other engineers and scientists have proven with physics that that didn't happen. What do you mean? Engineers from MIT, from NJIT, from the American Society of Civil Engineers all say the buildings collapsed from the fire. See? There you go. Who are you? Many other engineers and scientists all say the fires could not have caused the collapses. But this is physics. It's math. It's not up for debate. It is if you don't have all the information. No one knows how hot the fires burned, how wide or fast the fires spread, how long the jet fuel burned, or even what they don't need to know. They have the designs of the buildings, which of course have never been released to the public. And they can make a very well-educated guess. And that's not proof. So why is the official story being shopped around as the official truth? Because no one can prove it's wrong. So it's a universal negative? It's hardly a reason to go to war. Okay. Give me another way those buildings could have come down. Could have been a controlled demolition.
It certainly looked like controlled demolitions.
And if you look at some angles of replays of the Twin Towers falling, you can actually see squibs where explosive charges are going off. Those could just be latent explosions from the interior buckling of the buildings. The point is, it can't be proven with physics. You know, one person can argue and prove mathematically that one thing happened, while another person can argue and prove the exact opposite. Without the basic tools needed for understanding what was happening inside each building, it is impossible to prove anything. And with absolutely no proof, this government's reaction to 9/11 has essentially been one huge, gigantic hate crime against Muslims. That's because it was first a hate crime against us. Go back to Skull and Bones, you neocon, Republican, Nazi, fascist, Zionist, Satanist piece of shit. Shut up, both of you, okay? Focus. There's one anomaly I've yet to mention here.
Which is?
Never in the history of construction has a single skyscraper ever collapsed due to fire.
Never?
Not once. So 9/11 was a historic day for controlled demolitions experts. Now you don't even need the explosives. You can just crash a plane right into the building and let the collapse take care of itself.
You're right. It's a bit convenient that 3 buildings fell from fire on the same day when it had never happened before in history.
Which brings me to Building 7. For reasons that have never adequately been explained, World Trade Center Building Number 7 collapsed at 5 p.m. that afternoon.
Something's always bothered me about that.
It was the strangest thing, and no one ever talks about it. Building 7 was not hit by a plane. But there were fires raging on floors 8, 11, 12, 13, and 18. Those floors in order were the American Express Bank, the Securities and Exchange Commission, Standard Chartered Bank, and Citigroup.
Those are 4 financial institutions. Is that a coincidence?
There's no such thing as a coincidence. So what? What? So all the floors on fire had to do with money. Big deal. No, that building also had the offices of the Secret Service and the IRS and the clandestine home to the New York branch of the CIA. I mean, imagine. And imagine what kind of, incriminating evidence went down in those buildings. Incriminating? How? That branch of the CIA was the headquarters for the joint FBI-CIA investigation into Al-Qaeda. Standard Chartered Bank was used by Omar Sheikh Saeed to wire $100,000 to hijacker Mohammed Atta. Those offices of the SEC were ground zero for preemptive investigation into pre-9/11 insider trading. Oh, and you think they didn't recover all that information? According to officials from the SEC, most of those cases were either scrapped or postponed for a great length of time. Okay. So what about the investigation into Al-Qaeda? That was being headed by FBI agent John O'Neill.
Which brings us back to your original question. Who killed John O'Neill? And why?
I can't answer that yet. You destroy all of this. Destroy what? This! All of this! We have the power to change things. The only group capable of stopping the United States government is the people of the United States. There are several reasons 9/11 was allowed to happen. Allowed to happen by whom? By our government. Why would the United States government allow the 9/11 attacks to occur? It is the oldest trick in the book. You hit your own headquarters, blame it on someone else, and then start a war with the people you framed. Problem, reaction, solution! Problem. Radical Islamic groups have attacked the United States and claim they want to destroy all Western civilization. Reaction! War must be waged against those you have framed, and security must be expanded at home. Solution? No more terrorist attacks. Very informative. I can play along too. I can. Wait, I've got one. Wait. Problem. You're both pissing me off. Reaction? I hate you. Solution? Go fuck yourselves. This wasn't the first time it happened. Give me an example. February 27, 1933. Just 28 days following Hitler's appointment as Chancellor, the German Parliament building, the Reichstag, mysteriously burns to the ground. A Dutch communist named Marinus van der Lubbe is found at the scene, convicted, and then executed. Because of this, the Nazi Party, trumpeting for a war with the Soviets, gained significant power in the next national election.
And at the same time, Hitler scales back civil liberties at home in response to a national emergency.
And as of March 24th, 1933, due to the law for terminating the suffering of people and nation, Hitler has consolidated total power in Germany. It took just 1 month for the Nazis to gain total control over Germany. And it sounds frighteningly similar to what happened here on 9/11, 68 years later. Except that you can't prove Hitler burned the Reichstag building any more than you can prove the US government planned 9/11. Even if Al-Qaeda did this, our government is still guilty. What are you talking about? Have you been listening? Do you remember when we made this? Then you should remember that Al-Qaeda was supported and funded by the ISI, and the ISI was supported and funded by the CIA. Everything we need to know is on this wall, gentlemen. Don't tell me you forgot what got us into this in the first place. That's it. If we are going to do anything, we all have to be clear on every single detail on this wall. Okay? Okay? Okay. 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 Let's begin. Now, for all intents and purposes, terrorism in this country officially began with the Pan Am 103 crash in 1988. Now, during this time, there have been minor terrorist acts. Small bombings, kidnappings, but not the big stuff, okay? So today, we're only going to discuss when the mother lode arrived on our soil. On February 26, 1993, a bomb went off in the World Trade Center. 6 people were killed and thousands were injured. The idea was to knock the North Tower into the South Tower so both would fall onto Wall Street. But that date is important. Do you know what that date signifies?
It's the second anniversary of the end of the Gulf War.
And who was blamed for that attack?
Muslim extremists.
Ramzi Youssef, Muslim extremist. Former Mujahideen fighter Ramzi Youssef entered the country on an Iraqi passport. Now, he was sentenced to death by Manhattan Federal Court on September 11th, 1996. Are we beginning to see a pattern here?
These Arabs sure have an affinity for anniversaries.
Someone sure does. Now, what is their obsession with the World Trade Center? Well, you'll remember that we were all told that the World Trade Center was a target for terrorism because of one reason. It was the home base of the US economy. But then we're told at the same time that the terrorists targeted us because of our values, because of our freedoms.
So why bomb the World Trade Center when structures like the Statue of Liberty or the Washington Monument are far brighter beacons of freedom?
Why indeed? I warned that the first World Trade Center attack was a staged event, a psyop, its sole purpose being to shine a light on the World Trade Center towers, to convince people that they were future targets of terrorism.
I do recall all of the counterterrorism pundits after 9/11 saying, quote, Al-Qaeda always wanted to finish the job.
Oh, I'll get to the counterterrorists in a little bit, but your point is well taken. But wait, how do we know that the 93 bombing wasn't Al-Qaeda, Like everything, we don't exactly know, but in hindsight it makes the most sense. And here's why. After 93, a series of terrorist attacks plagued the US. As we move through this, we will begin to understand how specific agendas within specific parts of government, media, and industry have created a propaganda campaign to wage war, with 9/11 as the prime selling point. There was the OKC bombing in 95, the embassy bombings in Africa in 1998, the USS Cole in 2000 in Yemen, and then, of course, there was 9/11.
There's an anomaly in there. All of the attacks you just mentioned were blamed on Al-Qaeda, except for OKC.
However, there is a connection. Timothy McVeigh's lawyer claims that he and Terry Nichols were not the only 2 people who planned the OKC bombing. He contends that Nichols made several trips to the Philippines in the years before the bombings and met with Ramzi Youssef. McVeigh served in the Gulf War, and Youssef entered the country with an Iraqi passport. Coincidence? Conspiracy! McVeigh and Nichols both visited Al-Qaeda training camps in the Philippines after the Gulf War. Now, at McVeigh's trial, significant evidence came out that either Al-Qaeda, Iraqi intelligence, or both assisted in the OKC bombings. And more importantly, hundreds of thousands of documents were withheld by the FBI from McVeigh's attorneys. The director of the FBI at that time was Louis Freeh. Now, no one knows what these documents contain, but they very well could have had evidence that McVeigh, Nichols, and other conspirators planned the OKC bombing. See, that doesn't make any sense. Why wouldn't the government want to blame Al-Qaeda for OKC? Because it wasn't 9/11. Neither was the first World Trade Center bombing. You have to realize that the planning for 9/11 was years in advance, maybe even decades. All the terrorist activity leading up to it, they're just little side notes, little warnings of what was to come. So OKC is part of a larger plan. Exactly. All part of the same PSYOP.
What's a PSYOP?
A PSYOP is a clandestine intelligence operation. Okay, they are used to shift people's perceptions to a predefined agenda.
PSYOPs are used in conjunction with more overt actions called military ops. So PSYOPs are conducted by taking an already established belief and then creating something false around that to take advantage of it. So you can see how easily a PSYOP could have been created surrounding 9/11. You begin by teaching Muslims a new version of Islam, full of violence and extremist beliefs. This sets up one part of the PSYOP, the patsies. Then, over the years, you slowly mold the patsies into a fully functioning military operation. Guns, bombs, tanks, the works. Now, the patsies hate you, but they have no idea that you are the one supporting them, because you use an intermediary, someone they believe is on their side.
And at the same time, well, you have your thumb on the patsies, right? You filter out information to the public that the patsies are the ones planning the attacks.
So when the attacks happen, it is so easy to convince the public the patsies are at fault. But on the flip side, the patsies are doing nothing but talking tough and just committing smaller, less devastating attacks, while you yourself conduct the military op and carry out the more destructive major strikes. So with carefully executed planning and initiatives in place to keep it all secret, you have all the makings for a military intelligence PSYOP on 9/11.
And OKC fits in how?
Al-Qaeda is not the only enemy in this war on terror. Ever since this country's inception, a much larger, deeper, darker threat has existed against the powers that be. Dissent. Oklahoma City, it shone a light on militia groups and cults that were bent on dismantling the U.S. government, typically through military action. It convinced the public that anyone who wanted to take down the U.S. government was as crazy as Timothy McVeigh.
Or Kaczynski.
The media rarely offers a favorable view of dissent. Only the people who want to destroy the world are ever covered. So just like the WTO convention, protests in Seattle in '99, OKC discredited any movement questioning the federal government. Anyone questioning the real motives behind 9/11 would automatically be grouped in with people like McVeigh and Nichols, just by association and without even saying a word.
So OKC was blamed on domestic terrorists as a means of stomping down dissent in this country.
All in preparation for 9/11.
So who was running the PSYOP?
Have you ever heard of a company called Kroll Associates?
The name sounds familiar.
Oh, I guarantee you have seen Kroll on television. They are champions of counterterrorism.
This is where the counter-terrorists come in?
Maybe they didn't run the PSYOP, but they sure as hell did cover it up. My friend, Kroll was bigger than you could possibly imagine. Kroll Associates is a global securities and intelligence firm. Publicly traded and privately managed, Kroll specializes in large building security and industrial espionage. In 1993, Kroll got a contract to manage security at the World Trade Center. They held that position up until the moment the towers fell. The current CEO of Kroll is Michael Cherkasky. Cherkasky is a former assistant district attorney under Robert Morgenthau in Manhattan. The former employees of Kroll include people like William Bratton, a former police commissioner in Boston and New York City, and now chief of the LAPD. And then, of course, there's Brian Jenkins.
Based out of Los Angeles, Jenkins is the country's foremost expert on aviation terrorism.
Now working for the powerful think tank, the RAND Corporation, out of Los Angeles,
Jenkins is a noted counterterrorism pundit and appears on many talk shows and news magazines. And lest we forget, Jerome Howard. Jerome Howard, the go-to guy for bioterrorism. In an investigation of 9/11, Howard's name comes up more than anybody else's. As a managing director of Kroll in New York City, Howard was responsible for doing security at the World Trade Center. Jerome Howard is also the guy that got John O'Neill his job as head of security at the World Trade Center. Yes, he did. Just prior to this, Jerome Howard was Rudy Giuliani's right-hand man in New York, where he headed up the Office of Emergency Management, OEM, FEMA, in New York City. And it was by Jerome Howard's suggestion that Mayor Giuliani constructed what became known as the Federal Bunker Offices in World Trade Center Building Number 7. Fireproof, bomb-proof, bulletproof, these OEM offices were basically Giuliani's headquarters in New York City. Until WTC 7 collapsed on 9/11.
That is incredible.
Besides just these jobs, Howard has been the #1 bioterrorism expert in the whole world. He is a well-known advisor to the Council on Foreign Relations, formerly worked for the National Institute of Health, and is currently the head of the Office of Public Health Preparedness. And on the morning of 9/11, just as the attacks were happening, Howard instructed the entire White House staff to go on Cipro, the anti-anthrax drug. Now, how did he know anthrax was going to become an issue? Well, as fate would have it, Howard worked in 1999 with Stephen Hatfield, the prime suspect in the anthrax attacks, at the Scientific Applications International Corporation, the SAIC. This company, the SAIC, was awarded a huge biodefense contract after 9/11. Hatfield, a well-known friend of Jerome Howard, was working on the military-grade anthrax program at U.S. AMRID, Fort Detrick, Maryland. And Battelle. Don't forget Battelle, a chemicals company with long-standing ties to the CIA. Howard was well aware of the U.S. AMRID project in Maryland.
So is Howard CIA?
Kroll is CIA! Come on! We don't know that. Oh, yes we do. Yes we do. I mean, their intelligence is not just gonna come right out and say it. But you know what they do. You know what they do. Oh, you know it. They are private intelligence! A managing director there has said, quote, Kroll is like a private CIA. He knows what's going on. He knows what's going on. And there are other companies like Kroll as well. There's T&M Protection, run by Robert Tucker. Tucker met with O'Neill and Howard the night before 9/11. They had drinks at Elaine's. There's Strang-Hayes Consulting. There's Wackenhut Corporation. Then there's CTC International, the Cohen Group. And then there's Strategic, formerly called Securicom. Strategic also had a contract to do security at the World Trade Center. Securicom also had security contracts with Dulles International Airport and United Airlines. And remember, United had 2 planes crash on 9/11. And one of those planes came from Dulles. Now, an interesting note about Securicom is that from 1993 to 2000, one of its principal shareholders was a man by the name of Marvin Bush. Marvin Bush, the president's younger brother.
That's an interesting connection.
But not necessarily indicative of anything. It's 6 degrees of separation. Bush's younger brother doing security at the World Trade Center is something that needs to be seriously investigated! By that rationale, we could have known a guy who knew a guy who worked with a guy who stood in the same street corner as Jerome Howard, and therefore we're guilty. We are saying it's guilt by association, which maybe we shouldn't do. You can't discount Kroll's connection to all of this! No, I can't. And I won't. Now, Kroll has been involved in a host of shady operations. In 1991, the Kuwaiti government hired Kroll to investigate Saddam Hussein's finances. In 2002, Kroll was given the massive responsibility of reorganizing Enron.
Through 97 and 98, Kroll oversaw the elections of the Teamsters Union.
And just following 9/11, Kroll was tapped by the LAPD to monitor all counterterrorism efforts in Los Angeles.
Kroll really gets around. Kroll is tied to the FBI as well. The director of the FBI during Waco and the First World Trade Center bombing was a man by the name of William Sessions. Now, when he left the Bureau, he became a shareholder of Kroll.
And the next FBI director was Louis Freeh.
And Louis Freeh's top advisor at the Bureau was a guy named James Bucknam. Guess where he works now? He's a managing director of Kroll. Freeh is now a senior vice president at the MBNA Credit Card Corporation. His specific duties include personnel and security. Next to Enron, MBNA was the largest campaign contributor to George W. Bush in 2000.
One of Freeh's deputy directors was James K. Kallstrom, with a K.
At the time of 9/11, Kallstrom was head of New York State's Office of Public Security. And he also works at MBNA with Louis Freeh. And both Freeh and Kallstrom are well-known friends of Jerome Hauer. Now, it has been rumored that MBNA was one of the companies heavily involved in pre-9/11 insider trading, which would have been investigated by the SEC in New York City, but all those records went down
in World Trade Center 7.
You want to know what really gets me? I'll tell you what really gets me. How all these guys, how did Cherkasky and Jenkins and Bratton and Howard, just how the hell did they become terrorism pundits, huh? I mean, they drop themselves out on TV all the goddamn time saying Al-Qaeda this and terrorist threat that, and from our research and blah, blah, blah. Just where the hell did they get all their information?
I hate to say it, but he's right. They aren't official law enforcement or intelligence, yet somehow they became the foremost experts on counterterrorism. A lot of them are former law enforcement.
But terrorism is one of the most closely guarded fields of all intelligence. Why would you leak information just to a couple of buddies and allow them to trumpet all that information on a national television?
To build up the propaganda campaign, obviously. To frame up Al-Qaeda before and after the fact. Look, we've all got to understand that a company like Kroll, even though it won't disclose its intelligence ties, is intimately linked to the CIA. But if we're saying that the CIA runs domestic terrorism operations, we are saying Kroll does as well. These people have so much information about terrorism because they're either deeply rooted to intelligence or they are intelligence, privatized in order to make their work legal and untouchable by Congress.
Oh God, are we saying that the people who run counterterrorism
May very well be the terrorists themselves. Look, it's no coincidence that Kroll did security at those buildings. And it's no secret that Kroll employees have more inside knowledge about terrorism than even the FBI and the CIA do. They are inexplicably in a position to get inside information, even from people like John O'Neill. Then they come out and they warn the country, or they tell everybody how the whole terrorist outfit works. They are well-placed operatives working a specific agenda to frame the patsies. And what do they say? To frame someone, you have to know the real details of the crime? Kroll is our suspect number one. No one had more means, motive, or opportunity to commit this attack. You can't be serious. What you're saying is suicide. You do not go out and publicly accuse a company like Kroll Associates
of being a publicly traded terrorism company, okay? These people profit from insider knowledge of coming terrorist attacks. They don't disclose their credentials or their contacts. They merely claim they are experts from Kroll, and that's supposed to mean they are trustworthy. We need to stick to what we can prove here. All of this is just blatant speculation and can discredit this entire thing. Unless it's true. This is not how you run an investigation. You do not just dream up a hypothesis and then change the evidence to make it come true. You follow your leads, which led to Kroll! But not to this wild theory. I'm sure that these counter-terrorists are involved somehow. But there is no proof whatsoever that they took part in any of the attacks or even had any foreknowledge.
So does that mean we just forget about it? Move on to the next topic?
No. It means we don't get sidetracked. We can't just go flapping our lips about any old theory that we want to. So then how does Kroll get their information? How do these guys, of all people, know information that even our paid law enforcement and intelligence officials don't know? I mean, how does one become a terrorism expert anyway? You already have your answer. Former FBI directors on their board, former biowarfare experts within their infrastructure, members of major think tanks as directors, former U.S. attorneys as executives. This company is filled with people who could have had prior knowledge and just kept their contacts secret. This is a security company, after all. And one of the most important security issues facing the world in the last 20 years has been security from terrorism. That's where they get all their information. That is how they become counterterrorism experts. He has a point. There is clearly something wrong with Kroll, but we can't jump to conclusions. So then where do you think Kroll fits into this whole thing? They're just a group of for-hire thugs. They come in and trump up the charges on whoever needs to be guilty, and then they fade back into the shadows. The only thing I see them being guilty of is misleading the public. And the purpose of that? Maybe you're right. Maybe it is to cover up their crime. Or maybe it's so that people will hire them to secure their buildings. Maybe they take advantage of 9/11 the same way that Bush does. They take advantage of 9/11 for profit. Come on! Cherkasky is their CEO! It's obvious he's dirty! Obvious to us, yes. Look, Cherkasky takes us back to New York. Let's focus on that. How much do you know about the U.S. Attorney's Office in the Southern District of Manhattan?
Not that much, although I'm sure they've been involved with the most high-profile cases in this country's history.
Right, and it's time we went through that history. Louis Freeh spent his entire career in law enforcement in New York City before becoming FBI director. And from 1981 to 1991, Freeh worked as a U.S. attorney in the Southern District of New York City. And Rudy Giuliani worked in that same office from 1983 to 1993, just before he became mayor. And do not forget, don't you dare forget, that Cherkasky, the current CEO of Kroll, okay, the Kroll guy, he was in New York too at the same time. He was doing all the prosecutions too. You know it. Make sure you tell him that. But Noriega, Gotti, and the BCCI have one very special thing in common.
What's that?
They were all key players in the global drug trade.
I figured drugs would make their way into this story.
Make their way? My friend, drugs are at its core. What do you know about the global drug trade?
Only what I read in the papers.
Then you know nothing. This is covered with even less honesty in the mainstream press than 9/11 is.
I've always assumed intelligence was involved.
As usual, your assumption would be correct. The war between the Soviets and the Afghans ended in 1979. Meanwhile, the drug trade from Latin America was heating up, with significant assistance from the CIA. It started big time with the formation of the Medellin drug cartel in Colombia in 1978. Founded by Carlos Leader, the Ochoa brothers, and Pablo Escobar, the Medellin cartel operated by manufacturing the coca plant into cocaine and shipping it to the U.S.
The collaboration began when Leader purchased an island in the Bahamas,
where corporate tax and banking laws are extremely lenient,
and used that land as a jumping-off point to launder the money taken in by the drug sales.
The Bahamas is home to thousands of tax-exempt corporations, including companies owned and managed by American International Group, AIG.
The largest insurance company in the world and the 6th largest corporation in the world.
One of AIG's companies in the Bahamas is named after a woman called Coral Talavera.
And who is she?
She's Carlos Leader's wife. She is the head of an AIG branch in San Francisco.
I don't understand. Isn't Carlos Leader in prison?
Not anymore. Carlos Leader was extradited from Colombia to the United States for trial in 1987. A year later, he was convicted and sentenced to life plus 135 years for drug trafficking and murder. While he was in prison, Carlos Leader struck a deal with the United States. Take down the cartel, and he would be granted freedom. Along the way, he implicated and then testified against Manuel Noriega, Panamanian dictator and middleman for the Medellin cartel.
Noriega was captured through an invasion of Panama in 1989 under the first President Bush.
He was convicted of drug running, racketeering, and money laundering in 1992.
And Leader?
According to the official U.S. record, whereabouts unknown. See, there's one thing that ties all these points together. The cartel, AIG, the CIA, the Contras, Noriega. One thing connects them all. The BCCI. The Bank of Credit and Commerce International, or for our discussion today, the granddaddy of all money laundering scams. The BCCI was and remains the largest instance of fraud and bankruptcy in global history. Located out of Abu Dhabi, the BCCI operated without fail throughout the 70s and 80s as a money laundering and investment finance bank.
This is documented in the investigation by Morgenthau and Cherkasky in New York, but also by the investigation in the United States Senate, which was headed by Senator John Kerry.
Financial ties can be made between the BCCI and Manuel Noriega through his facilitation of the drug trade. By 1992, the BCCI was broke and busted up by U.S. authorities. However, one point about this rarely mentioned case is that a principal shareholder of the BCCI, right, is a guy named Khalid bin Mahfouz. Khalid bin Mahfouz, a Saudi financier and investment banker, whose other claim to fame is his dubious investment in a company called Harkin in the late 80s.
Harkin? Isn't that one of George W. Bush's companies?
The man with a 20% stake in the largest money laundering operation the world has ever seen saved our president's business career. Khalid bin Mahfouz has also been implicated as one of many very prominent Saudis who has funneled money to Osama bin Laden. That would make President Bush someone who has done business with a known terrorist. Bin Mahfouz. Regardless, the drug trade is going to escalate in the 1980s. And why wouldn't it? Reagan is your president, and Bush is your VP. Okay, the greatest drug smuggler in the history of drug smuggling was a guy named Barry Seal. Barry Seal, okay? He was an admitted CIA agent, okay? He was contracted at least as back as like the early 60s. In the early 60s, Barry Seal is living in New Orleans, where he joins a Civil Air Patrol unit, whose captain is an eccentric fellow by the name of David Ferry.
Joe Pesci from JFK?
Ferry was, by all indications, a conspirator in the JFK assassination. And another member of the Civil Air Patrol unit is Lee Harvey Oswald.
So the drug trade is somehow tied to the JFK assassination?
Seemingly. But the connections don't stop there. Barry Seal was a pilot, a great pilot by all accounts. Now everyone assumes that David Ferrie was a getaway pilot for the assassins in Dallas, so it's possible to presume that Barry Seal was one as well.
In late 1963, Seal is seen in a picture with Frank Sturgis and Felix Rodriguez.
Sturgis was indicted and convicted as one of the 5 Watergate burglars. He testified in court that his handler on that assignment was E. Howard Hunt. Hunt, you remember, worked in the Nixon White House. Now, the Rockefeller Commission, investigating illegal acts by the CIA in the 70s, regarded both Hunt and Frank Sturgis as possible conspirators in the JFK assassination.
What is Barry Seal doing in a photograph with a possible JFK assassin?
But it's the other man in the Seal photograph who has a more ominous distinction. Felix Rodriguez was a Cuban refugee. In the late 50s, he began working with the CIA to recruit more refugees for an invasion of Cuba. This was done under the direction of the CIA agent Ted Shackley. Incidentally, Ted Shackley also worked the Far East drug trade with Richard Secord in the early 50s. Felix Rodriguez also figures into the assassination of Bolivian President Che Guevara in 1967. So where is Barry Seal in all of this? He's in New Orleans until at least 1968, when he takes over for the late David Ferrie as captain of the Civil Air Patrol. Now, in the early 70s, Barry Seal is running cocaine through New Orleans. He's running it on planes later identified to be former Air America planes.
Planes used by the CIA in the 50s and 60s to ship heroin from the Far East.
When the Medellin cartel is founded, Seal immediately hooks up with their operation. By 1981, he is trafficking in more drugs than anyone in the history of this country.
And it is around this time that Barry Seal moves his operation from New Orleans
to Mena, Arkansas.
And where is that?
About 180 miles from Little Rock. A small little out-of-the-way mountain town. A small little out-of-the-way mountain town that just so happens to have a major U.S. airport. The Mena Intermountain Municipal Airport. From at least 1981 to 1986, this airport is ground zero for all illegal narcotics activity in the United States. You see, Barry Seal, he began flying his drugs into this airport, most likely with the knowledge of then President Reagan and the next 2 presidents, Bush and Clinton.
How does he get away with it?
He only gets away with it for a little while. It is suspected that Seal traffics in nearly $5 billion worth of cocaine in this 5-year period. The U.S. Attorney in Arkansas at this time, Asa Hutchinson, never opens an investigation, even though FBI informants, MENA employees, and the Arkansas State Police have all told him that this illegal drug trafficking has been occurring.
Ironically, Hutchinson went on to head the DEA and is now the Undersecretary for Border Transportation and Security in the Department of Homeland Security.
So Seal is virtually untouchable for this period. Even though the FBI and the DEA have all opened up investigations into his operation, he remains a contract agent with the CIA. But with overwhelming evidence of drug trafficking mounting against him, he finally turned states in 1985. He testifies in several trials against Medellin traffickers. And this compromises the entire CIA operation. I mean, Barry Seal isn't only running drugs for the cartel, he's also involved in the drugs for arms trade in Nicaragua. The DEA even places him in a sting to photograph Contras loading cocaine onto an airplane in Nicaragua. And this pisses the CIA off, but good! Seal's next mission is to trick Pablo Escobar and the Ochoa brothers into coming to a neutral third-party country where they will be extradited. I mean, he's about to take down the entire Medellin cartel. But then news of Seal's cooperation with the DEA became leaked to the national media. He has to be called back in midair from his task to meet with the Ochoa brothers and Pablo Escobar. And who is responsible for this press leak? Admittedly, it is none other than Oliver North, the primary figurehead in the Iran-Contra scandal. Barry Seal is later gunned down in Baton Rouge, assassinated by the Medellin cartel. It is rumored that on his dead body is the personal private phone number of George H.W. Bush. The MENA operation, it's already in jeopardy, but it becomes a major problem when one of Seal's former planes is shot down by Sandinistas later on in 1986. The only survivor of the crash is a man named Eugene Hasenfuss, and he claims he is running cocaine for the CIA. The plane can be tracked back to MENA, so for the time being, the MENA operation is close to being exposed. No president has ever spoken directly about the events in Mena, Arkansas. However, Governor Clinton, just when he was rising from obscurity to become president, made his only public comments about the massive drug operation being conducted right in his own backyard. In 1991, Clinton referred to the Arkansas State Police investigation of Mena and the drug trafficking thereof as having linkages to the federal government. It includes all kinds of questions whether he, meaning Seal, had any links to the CIA. And if that backed into the Iran-Contra deal. The war on drugs, it's just a war against the inner cities. The wealthy line their pockets with all the illegal drug money, drugs that they bring into the country themselves, and they peddle it off to the poor people in the ghettos. In the 1980s, the number of Americans in prisons doubled from 500,000 to 1 million. Most of these convicts are drug offenders. And from 85 to 88 alone, prosecutions for white drug offenders dropped 15%, while it rose 88% for blacks. Even though it is estimated at this time that 80% of all drug users are white. Now, ironically, one of the security companies linked to the CIA, Wackenhut Corporation, owns and maintains its own private prisons here in the U.S. It is another form of government-sponsored terrorism. Poverty, violence, death, these all stem from drug abuse. Think about prohibition. The government lifted the ban on alcohol because the social ills of alcohol abuse weren't nearly as bad as the violence that came along with the criminal importation of alcohol. So why not legalize all drugs? Surely there would be more drug addiction, more drug-related death, but there would be far less violence associated with the illegal sale of narcotics. And which is the lesser of two evils? The CIA has destroyed the inner cities of this country, destroyed millions of lives at a profit. I'll give you one guess as to the primary bank used for laundering the money from the global drug trade.
The BCCI.
And then there's AIG. AIG means its own fleet of aircraft. AIG owns and maintains over 400 airplanes. Any number of these planes could be used for the transfer of narcotics. And in 1987, the Arkansas Development Financial Agency collaborated with AIG to found Coral Reinsurance, named after Carlos Leder's wife, the same year Leder was extradited. The formation of this company has never been filed with the SEC. There's no known paperwork on it at all.
And Arkansas was where Seal was flying in his drugs.
Yes, as a CIA operation, with Bill Clinton as governor of Arkansas. During the heyday of the BCCI, with Noriega still in power in Panama, and with John Gotti heading the New York Mafia, where more drugs end up than anywhere in the world.
This truly is a vast conspiracy.
You could say that. And AIG's founder is a well-known CIA operative, CV Starr, and one of AIG's current directors is the son of CIA founder Frank Wisner. Now, the chairman and CEO of AIG is a man named Maurice Hank Greenberg. Now, he's formerly the head of the New York Stock Exchange and the Federal Reserve. Not only that, in 1995, his name was floated by all people, Jay Rockefeller, to be head of the CIA. Instead, Bill Clinton appointed John Deutsch, who had been a director of the SAIC, the technology and biodefense company formerly advised by Jerome Howard and Stephen Hatfield. But don't lose sight of Greenberg. Maurice Greenberg has also chaired the Council on Foreign Relations, the CFR.
What's that?
One of the most powerful organizations in the world. Founded in 1921 by President Wilson's chief counsel, Colonel Edward House, the CFR operates as the primary advisor to the United States government. The CFR's principal contact in the U.S. is the CIA. And the chairman of the CFR is the CEO of AIG. With its obvious intelligence links, just imagine how scary it is to think about a company like AIG. Insurance companies are the foremost private intelligence gathering agencies in the world. Insurance agents? They can find out anything about anybody! Who knows more about you than your insurance company? Your medical records, your bank records, driving records, personal history, your fucking life story. Just think if that company was sharing information with the government. Worse, just think if that company had $100 billion in assets and could invest that money at will.
You're saying that money laundered from the drug trade could be used to fund terrorism.
There's one fact I haven't told you yet.
What's that?
In 1993, AIG became the principal shareholder of Kroll Associates. Break up the beauty of our collective silence here, but I don't know about any of you. I got a hard time believing all this crap. All of what? The CIA runs the global drug trade. For what purpose? And what does it have to do with 9/11? 70% of the world's opium is produced in Afghanistan. Think about that for a second. The CIA has run heroin and cocaine for 50 years. They had a military presence in Afghanistan in the 80s, and they created the Mujahideen. And you think all that is related? After the fall of the CIA in the 70s, and with the near disastrous Iran-Contra and MENA exposures, the intelligence community, it had to realize that its facilitation of the drug trade, if revealed to the public, could prove fatal to any and all future endeavors. So if you're the CIA, you might get a little smarter about it. With MENA, the CIA had no cover story, no backup plan. Instead, the entire operation was nearly outed, and the whole global drug trade almost became public knowledge. You have to move the MENA operation. Well, where do you move it to? Someplace even more out of the way than MENA. And what's more out of the way than a flight school? Wow. Where did Mohammed Atta get his flight training? Hoffman Aviation School in Venice, Florida. There are over 200 flight schools in Florida. Why did the hijackers just happen to choose Huffman? Huffman Aviation is authorized by the INS to issue these very popular vocational student visas to foreigners. These allow people to enter the country legally and without much paperwork. Mohammed Atta had one of these visas. Guess who gave it to him? It's Rudy Deckers, CEO of Huffman Aviation. And there is overwhelming evidence that Rudy Deckers works for the CIA. Why would a CIA agent run a flight school? On July 5th, 2000, the DEA discovered over 30 pounds of heroin on a plane owned by Wally Hilliard. And who is he? He is the owner of Huffman Aviation. The same Huffman Aviation which in the 1990s induced hundreds of Arab students to come and train at their school by issuing these highly coveted visas. Is it starting to make sense now? 30 pounds of cocaine, Arab men posing as students, CIA agent as CEO. Okay, I see where you're going with all this. The MENA operation didn't stop. It just changed locations to this flight school and probably dozens of others. And Mohammed Atta's role in all of this? He is not training to be a pilot. He is a pilot. He is the new Barry Seal. There is evidence Mohammed Atta had flight training at Maxwell Air Force Base in Alabama. And if he already has flight training, why is he attending a flight training school? Who says Al-Qaeda is a terrorist operation? Al-Qaeda Al-Qaeda was formed in the wake of the fall of the Soviet Union in Afghanistan. The phrase translates literally to mean the base. They're essentially an arm of the former Mujahideen, which was created by the CIA. The CIA runs drugs globally. The CIA trains its own armies and pilots and instills a military presence in every country all around their crop. The Sandinistas, the Colombian death squads, and now Al-Qaeda. If you're pushing 70% of the world's heroin out of one country, and something goes wrong and the operation becomes public, you need a backup plan. Al-Qaeda isn't involved in terrorism. They're just framed up as terrorists to hide their true nature. They are a drug cartel, plain and simple. All that video they show of Osama firing his machine gun and training all those people, he's not training terrorists. He's training soldiers. Soldiers to guard the heroin trade. When 9/11 happens and Al-Qaeda is pinned for the crime, no one cares at all about the heroin smuggling. Because drug smuggling means nothing to people who have just watched the World Trade Center explode. All right, but you're still missing a major point here, okay? How could Al-Qaeda smuggle all this heroin out of Afghanistan when the Taliban abolished all poppy farming in 1999? The Taliban did this? Says who? You're saying they didn't? I know the US claims they did, but if the Taliban did this, tell me, how did they make $40 million off of taxes from opium farmers in 2000? So what are you saying? I'm saying the Taliban only eradicated their crop on paper. In reality, the heroin trade continued. There were fucking aerial photographs, surveillance, satellite imagery. The goddamn fields were being burned. Of course they were. Part of the process of growing any kind of crop is eradicating the fields to then regrow the plants. And it makes no sense for the Taliban to stop the flow of opium. It's the only thing keeping the economy afloat at all. And the Taliban, it's installed. It's installed in Afghanistan specifically for the purpose of keeping the heroin flow coming. Oh yeah, keep it coming, baby. Because if you have a cartel like Al-Qaeda, functioning as a patsy, being blamed for terrorist attacks all over the world, you would need a government not recognized by the United Nations. That way, you couldn't invade, and you couldn't extradite any of the terrorists. And the heroin trade goes on without missing a beat. So what you are saying, let me get this straight. What you are saying is that the only reason they do 9/11 is specifically to hide the fact that Al-Qaeda is a drug cartel? Because I gotta tell you, that is the stupidest fucking thing I've ever heard in my entire life. 9/11 didn't just hide the opium trade. It gave the United States a free pass to invade Afghanistan and build the oil pipeline they had been planning for years. It set up a race war. It set up a religious war. It opened the door for the United States to attack anybody it deemed was harboring terrorists. Internationally or domestically. And what did W say? You're either with us or you're with the terrorists. And 9/11 instilled in us the basest of all fears. Any time, any day, any place, an airplane, tall building, subway, shopping mall, grocery store, local newsstand, chemical, biological, nuclear, doesn't matter. 9/11 could happen again. And guess what? It will happen again. It's inevitable. This is a lifelong battle. In this corner, you have the United States, the shining example of freedom, peace, and goodwill. And in the other corner, you have Al-Qaeda, dirty, bearded, hate-mongering terrorists. The whole thing's a setup. It's a show. It's theater. It distracts all of us from what's really going on. The systematic destruction of national sovereignty all across the world. That is preposterous. What's easier to believe? When Al-Qaeda is a vicious terrorist organization bent on annihilating all freedom and peace in the world? Or it's a cartel whose sole purpose is to ensure the safety of the heroin trade out of the Middle East? That is a real tough one. I'm gonna go with option A. They are Islamic fundamentalists. They flew fucking planes into the World fucking Trade Center, okay? They killed some 3,000 infidels along with themselves because Allah told them it was a smart thing to do. If I were to tell you that a man habitually does cocaine, frequents strip clubs and escort services, would you believe he were A, a drug runner, or B, an Islamic fundamentalist? That's obvious. What is your fucking point? The man I am referring to is Mohammed Atta. Mohammed Atta did cocaine. Mohammed Atta was seen doing cocaine several times before 9/11. And what's more, Atta isn't seen doing this all by himself. Often, Rudy Deckers is with him, the guy who runs the flight school. Islamic fundamentalism strictly forbids the ingestion of any unnatural drug, and it firmly teaches that treating women as objects of desire is a sin. So if Mohammed Atta is already committing sins, he ain't going to paradise to see Allah, that's for sure. So why would he then take his own life in a terrorist attack? If you can conclude that Mohammed Atta did not fly one of those planes into the World Trade Center, then you must conclude something else happened on 9/11. You're right. And that begs the question, what really happened on 9/11? War and drugs are the biggest businesses in the world. They are tools to amass the greatest fear and exercise the mightiest control. Control over the mind. They waved the flag of war, proposing to wield the ultimate power in places afar, using 9/11 as a fucking bargaining chip. Support this war, or you're gonna get attacked again. Bow down on unconstitutional security measures, otherwise the guy sitting next to you, he might blow you up. Allow us to attack our enemies before they attack us, otherwise all freedom is lost. It's a protection racket. All the government is the mob. And their greatest crime is profiting from acts of war. And everybody's in on it. Defense contractors manufacture weapons for use during war while supporting financing political candidates who will go to war. The government that buys weapons from these companies in the event of war. Now with war crippling to most economies, nations must then borrow money and go into debt. And all that money goes right up to the top of the food chain, to the banks, which is where it came from in the first place. Only now there's a difference, because the money lent now has an insane amount of interest attached to it, more than most nations can afford to pay off. And then the cycle repeats itself. No one ever wonders where the national debt comes from. Who loans countries the trillions of dollars it takes to fund a national budget? Is it us? Is it the people? If that's true, then the government owes us $7 trillion. It's not us. We didn't give them $7 trillion. There are only 250 billion Federal Reserve notes in circulation. Where the fuck does all this money come from? From banks, from private multinational institutions that can exert immense power from behind the scenes. The kind of clout gained from having every person, state, province, and nation in debt to you. By controlling all money in the world, you can control all people in the world. And the more war there is, the more money there is. Boeing, Raytheon, Lockheed Martin, the SAIC, Carlyle Group, the list goes on. Every single one of these companies makes its living off of the misery of others, and to them, it's just business as usual. These companies even arm our enemies before we fight them. They can even control people with the threat of war, and when a tragedy strikes, when the nation is in mourning, when we are at our most vulnerable state, what do they tell us to do? Shop. They tell us to spend money. Trying to make a quick buck off of grieving people. It's not capitalism, it's not consumerism, it's not even corporatism. You know what it is? It is corporate fundamentalism. All these people know how to do is bring everything to market. The banks, the corporations, the government, the elite. They use poverty to marginalize the rest of the world. The upper 1%. When they tell us there are minorities, blacks, Latinos, Asians, the only minority that counts is the upper 1%. The rest of us are just slaves. Slaves to the dollar, slaves to the elite, slaves to their dogma. And dogma is so powerful because as soon as you believe it, you become afraid of its opposite. It's divide and conquer. Divide and conquer. And they do more than just that. They brainwash us in other ways. Just think back to 9/11. Think back to how confused and helpless we all were. Over and over and over and over, the TV just kept showing the replays. The towers kept falling. Patients suffering from post-traumatic stress disorder will often face a recurring trauma. In this state, scientists have proven that the human mind is very susceptible to suggestion. These people will believe anything you tell them. We all incurred major trauma on 9/11. They could have told us that fucking UFOs piloted those planes into the Twin Towers, and on 9/11, we would have believed them because we just needed it to stop. We just needed to point the finger at someone and say they are responsible, and because we needed to know our government could protect us. It was PTSD on a national scale. All the images, the rhetoric, patriotic American themes, it has all hijacked our minds. Senator Johnson said in 1917, the first casualty when war comes is the truth. And what are we going to do about that? I didn't want to say anything before, you know how easily they can get riled up, but I wanted to tell you, I think that what you've done here, it's very courageous. You do, yes, I do. I mean, you've challenged something which has already become official history, and you've done all your research. You've gotten all your facts straight. I mean, you've done something here which could persuade nearly anyone 9/11 was an inside job. But it's not enough. You've got to understand something. I believe everything you've said here. I do. But there's not a damn thing you can do to stop it. You are just one man. You're fighting a machine that has been running almost on autopilot for thousands of years. How do you plan on killing it? People will believe. People want to believe. That doesn't mean they will. We've got to make them believe. But what do you propose to do? And do you plan to revolt? How do you plan on doing that? We must do something. I agree. But what? There are plenty of things we could do. Like what? From what I understand, and you've done a pretty good job of hammering this home, the beast has been alive forever. No one's been able to stop it so far. What makes you think you are the one who will succeed?
Honestly, what do you suggest? Vote? Vote Democrat? Any Democrat? Don't vote at all? Support a third party? Protest? Well, how? Or petition the government? Write your congressman? Form an assembly outside the Capitol? Rally the troops? Tell your friends? Support a conspiracy theory? Any conspiracy theory, so long as it proves your point? Well, what then? What do people do? Shout to the heavens? March on Washington? Armed insurrection? To the death? Give me liberty or give me death! You're serious, aren't you? You're willing to die for this. Well, guess what? You might just get your wish. What do you mean? Take a look at yourself. You haven't slept or eaten in months. You're weak, disoriented, exhausted. What the fuck did you think was gonna happen? It was only a matter of time. Before what? You still don't get it. You are going to die. And if you don't do something about that right now, all of this will be for naught. We must do something.
So, you really want to know what happened on 9/11?
I am prepared to listen.
guns, bombs, tanks, just overall general killing. They're gonna take us to an underground bunker somewhere and tie power batteries to our nuts. Ooh, I'm the CIA.
Had any links to the CIA? And if that backed into the Iran-Contra deal?
He has a point.
He's training soldiers. Soldiers to guard the heroin trade.